Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our regular Board of Supervisors meeting, January 15th, 2025. I'm going to call this meeting to order and welcome everybody. And if you'll join me, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for a moment after. I'm going to ask everybody for a moment of silence, not only in remembrance of former President Jimmy Carter, who passed away, but also the victims of the wildfires or fires in California. So if everybody could just give us a moment. Thank you very much. Let's get started with roll call, please.
Scarlett Cantley,
Frank Palin.
Mary Viator, and also from our office, Francis Bethel.
Michael Johnson.
Richard Vesselati.
Elizabeth Ocamando.
Patricia Farrell. Betty Argue.
Jay Foy and Danny Ray is also on the line.
Burgess Hanson.
Rob Robinson.
Jeff Sisolak. Kenny Lawrence.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everybody, you can always join our meeting live on Zoom if you can't attend, and you can find that on our website. And I'm going to please silence your cell phones. Baby can cry, allow that, but please silence. To talk, please step outside and from the window because we could still hear conversation. Carrie, my mic keeps cutting out. Okay. Comment cards, silence your cell phones, please. Comment cards are in the red box on the table by the door. Please note the specific agenda item so we know when to call you up. And if it's just general public comment, not asked by the public, anything that's not on the agenda, that will come up approximately at 7:30. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here. It's important that everyone is involved and we get to hear from everybody. But again, as always, I'm going to ask everybody to please be respectful of each other, of staff, of the board. We also have joining us tonight is Commissioner Baxter, Joanne and David from the county. The commissioner has an update on the 5-year road plan, as well as the state of the county presentation for us. So she will be speaking shortly. Again, thank you everybody for being here, and I'll now have everybody's welcoming remarks. Patty?
Nice to see a big crowd again. I'm glad to see the involvement. Thank you for coming out and joining us.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for attending. Michael?
Thank you.
And happy birthday, by the way. I want to get that on record. It's your
Thank you.
birthday. I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
we weren't here for Betty's birthday to wish her the same, but she had a birthday as well. So happy belated birthday. Okay. So item number 5, agenda approval. Do I have any additions, deletions, or substitutions to the agenda? Seeing none. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Right, I need you in the mic better, please.
Second.
Okay. And I guess we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
No, you still got an aye. And
Aye.
in the mic, thank you. Okay. That item passes 0. Our first presentation tonight is an update on the economy by Mr. Eckloff with Piper and Sandler Company. And now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Hanson.
Yes. Thank you. So just quickly, Mr. Eckloff, as you know, is with Piper and Sandler and Company and works with us on bond financing. And this year, our goal in trying to work with Tallahassee hopefully getting other funds from, perhaps federal government as well to begin, moving forward with the, 640 acre expansion. And, Mr. Ford and Mr. Robinson and I, along with, Scarlett, finished the appropriations request for Representative Caruso and, Senator Harrell to move forward, on the plan, getting money to do the plan and other design work. So tonight, I thought it was appropriate. Mr. Eckloff was going to be in town. He works out of Denver, so he wanted to come in and just give a brief overview and then answer any questions that you may have related to interest rates, what they think will happen in the upcoming presidential change, transition to a new administration. So Mr. Eckloff, I'll let you take it from take
Thank
it
you
from
very
there.
much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Yancey. Yeah, again,
you.
Nate
Welcome.
Eckloff. I'm a managing director with Piper Sandler. I am based in Denver, but we do have offices here in West Palm Beach, which I've enjoyed the last few days. Not quite as warm as I would normally like it in Florida, having worked here for over 30 years, but far better than the 30-degree weather and I left in the mountains. Anyway, real quickly, I don't want to take too much of your time because I know you have a busy agenda tonight. I think it's fair to say over the last 15 months or more, we've seen a lot of volatility in both the stock market and the bond market. We've seen rates basically bounce around and go up, and about the time you think rates are going down, they turn around and go back up on you again. For example, today, the CPI, the inflation index, basically was slightly higher than what was expected. And so for long-term interest rates, or the 10-year treasury rate, we saw interest rates decline from about 4.8% to approximately 4.65%. Rough numbers, but fairly big move for one day in the market with almost 15 basis points, 14 to 15 basis points movement in one day. And that's just a result, I think, of some skittishness in the market as a whole, both in the fixed income market as well as the stock market. For example, in rates that you might have if you were to go to the bond market again, and we did catch very good interest rates the last two times we've had the opportunity to work with you for financings. But in today's market, rather than being in the 2s, 3s, and 4s, you'd probably be in the high 3s, the 4s, and maybe the low 5s for interest rates. Historically, if you look back over the last 40 years, you'd say that's still a pretty good interest rate. But for the last few years, it's higher than what it has been. The supply in our market has been very strong. We had a record year for tax-exempt municipal bonds in 2024. With almost $500 billion of bonds issued in 2024. So it was a very, very busy year in our market. And again, as I said, we saw interest rates bounce around some. A considerable supply of bonds came into the market in December, and we've seen a strong supply yet again in January as people are trying to get in the market with projects that have perhaps been held up, just waiting to see if perhaps construction costs might stabilize or decline. Interest rates so far have not scared people away from financings, but it has made refinancings difficult, just so you know. But again, we're expecting originally back in 2024 now, talked about having Fed interest rate cuts, perhaps of 4 or 5 cuts over the course of 2025. The most recent opportunity I've had to talk to our desk, I think at best now we're maybe looking for 2 rate cuts in 2025 at best, but a lot of that's going to be dependent upon inflation and other factors that affect the fixed income market. So all in all, it's, the economy I think is solid. We've seen a solid stock market. And again, it seems like there's some skittishness there. I don't know, most of you have investments one way, shape, or form in the stock market, either through individual investments or 401k or other opportunities. We've seen, high tech and whatnot. I'm not a stock market expert, but seen some skittishness around that. But AI has been driving a lot of what's gone on in 2024, and we'll see where that goes in 2025. But there seems to be a little bit of retreat in the high tech market. But all in all, I think it's a solid time to get in the market. The one thing I would say about the Indian Trail Improvement District is you're a very strong credit in the eyes of the municipal market. When we went to the rating agencies, you received a AA rating on your last financing. And so having that underlying rating says, volumes about the strength of the financial stability of the area. So I just make that very strong comment and note that going forward, I think you can expect to be treated as well on any future financings you may do or any improvement you decide to do. But I've probably talked way too long here. So any questions?
I just have a quick one.
Oh,
It's,
sorry, I'm sorry.
So,
I didn't
I know,
see it.
I know
on
it
the
may be,
screen.
yeah, it's too far to
Yeah.
reach. So just quickly, I know it may be too early with the destruction from the fires
Right.
in Los Angeles, but what do you anticipate what do you think the Fed will make any moves to try to lower interest rates to help the 10,000 or whatever it may be by the time it's done, homeowners there, and also Los Angeles and the county or Orange County in general, because they have a lot of infrastructure destruction?
I think we'll see a lot of ripple effects from that. It's probably still too early to tell exactly what. I would say, from what I've heard from the new administration coming in next week, is that the hope is to try and keep interest rates down to basically alleviate some of the pressure on the federal deficit, if you will. But as far as that goes, I mean, there's going to be tremendous pressure in the insurance business. I mean, we've seen that here in Florida with the hurricanes and whatnot that we've had over the years. But obviously with these significant fires in Los Angeles, it's going to have a huge impact on the insurance market. Don't know what it'll do with construction market, but you'd have to guess with supplies, contractors and the whole like. We all know what it's like when you have some devastating events. I mean, the contracting and whatnot goes a little bit crazy. So it's a good question, Burgess. I just think it's a bit too early, maybe a week or two early to be able to provide any insight on that, but it will have a ripple effect and probably one that'll make things more expensive. Anything
I'm good,
else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, look forward to
Thank
working with
you.
you in the future at some point in time, and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Thank you so
You're welcome.
much. We
Thank you.
appreciate
See
you
you soon.
coming.
Yep.
Okay, next item, 6.2, presentation. Vice Mayor Baxter on the state of the county and road.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we're gonna start with the number one thing the commission actually deals with, the budget. So who's running these live? You are? Okay. I am not gonna bore you to death with too many things. I did list in the presentation, the organizational structure of the county. For those that don't know, we do have 7 commissioners. And we, as a commission, can only hire and fire 3 individuals. That is the county attorney, the county administrator, and the county auditor.
Let me interrupt. You. Oh, there we go. It's clear now. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Most people think that we have some say over the directors and so on. We don't. It's really all under the county administrator who gets to do that. So whenever we say, we're not happy with somebody, it has to go through the proper channels. But yes, those 3 individuals are the only 3 that we get a say over hiring and firing as a board. I just wanted to let people know that's how our charter in the county is set up. If we move on, we do have a $9 billion budget in the county and 7,163 positions. It's very large. I wanted to say a lot of people do not understand the county budget. They don't understand that just because that's the budget, that it doesn't include just expenses. That is also revenues. So if we are bringing millions of dollars back from Tallahassee, if we're getting grant dollars in, if we are getting appropriations in, all of that is added into the budget. Things that are funded and not expended in one year that gets rolled over to the next year, also in the budget. So when you see our county budget continuously rising, that doesn't mean all the expenses are. As we know, everything has gone up in price. So expenses have gone up, but they haven't gone up $2 billion in the past couple years.
So that's revenue you're bringing in, much like with us. If we get a grant, that goes in as part, shows as our budget, but that's not coming out of the taxpayer.
Correct.
Right.
And the increase in property values, right? So that is where a lot of increase in the budget comes from, ad valorem taxes. So we have a lot of different parks and recreations. I'm not going to go into that too much, but I will like to let people know that they are out there. They are on the county website. So please take advantage of those things. We have some of the best golf courses as well. Discovering who we are. Our population as of recent has been 1.5 million people in Palm Beach County and growing exponentially. I think a lot of people probably feel like we're full. I share that sentiment. And at the same time, we also need some smart growth, but I feel personal about not having it here. So I would like to see some things happen, but I won't get into the weeds too much in that one. We do have current property values on the next slide. They have gone up substantially. It keeps growing. We have over, and I will let you guys read the numbers, but we're bringing in billions of dollars from taxes because of assessed values going up. I was the only commissioner this year to vote to not, I wanted to lower our millage rate again. We lowered it last year. I was the only one to vote again this year. I wanted to lower it, but 6 of my commissioners decided they wanted to keep it the same, which is still an increase in people paying taxes because the assessed values went up. So I would like to say I am definitely in favor of lower taxes. Budget expenditures have been listed for anyone who's interested in reading through those numbers. Again, I will not bore you. I just wanted to provide the information for anyone that was interested. Our millage rate is currently 4.5, and that is what we lowered it to last year, but it stayed the same since last year. We have, and this number always amazes me, almost $500 billion in total market value of real property in Palm Beach County. And 1.5 new net construction. It's growing absolutely off the charts. So if anyone is interested, again, more numbers, but I just find those very astounding. And so I wanted to provide them for the residents. Market and taxable value of real property. So just value, we have 58.7 billion. Unincorporated is 11.8 billion dollars in taxable value. At the bottom, in case you were following. So we have just value, incorporated, unincorporated, and then tax, same again, depending on where you are, whether it's the whole county or we're looking at just this district. Also, strategic priorities. We went over these at the last county commission meeting. They've been giving us small presentations. Anyone interested in knowing these fully in depth, the last 2 commission meetings have had several slides, presentations by staff going into these into full detail.
Have you
Again,
gotten to the infrastructure one yet?
we covered it, I believe, this past. It was either this one or the one before, but yeah, we have been covering it, yes. Again, we have started as a commission limiting them. Their presentations were like 30, 40 minutes long. And I think as anyone knows, you kind of tune them out after a while. So we have had them cut them down to 10-minute increments of get to the point, right? We don't need 40 minutes of information. And then we expand and we ask a lot of questions on things that we think the residents might be interested in. So a lot of good stuff. We have a new commission. We have 2 new commissioners, which have taken a very proactive approach in asking a lot of questions as well. So it's been interesting. Farming in the county, as everyone in here probably knows, I have the largest agricultural district in the entire state of Florida and east of the Mississippi for winter vegetables. So this is very personal to me, especially 401,000 acres of agricultural cropland and 1.2 billion in market value revenue. So we have 2 huge revenue streams, economic builders in this county, agriculture, and we also have tourism. And let's not forget the equestrian, the community. They are amazing at bringing a lot of economy to this county, a lot of economic dollars. The attractions that we have, we've listed some for you. Lion Country Safari, the South Florida Fairgrounds, and fire rescue. They listed on here in District 6, we have 14 fire stations with a 6-minute, 50-second average response time and an average 154,000 calls responded to. I just this morning did a groundbreaking. We are getting another fire station in District 6, so they are coming quite steadily at this point.
And where exactly is that located?
On Lyons Road, just south of Lake Worth Road. Road improvements, 5-year road program. So this is one of the things I think I wanted to cover the most, right? We have huge road problems in the county. I did a town hall and that video is posted to the website. So anyone who wants to watch it can watch it. A lot of questions asked and answered, which is why I plan to come give an abbreviated version of what that was. Basically, for the first time in 12 years, we have a fully funded 5-year road program. This has been a hot topic of mine for quite a while because we were not having enough dollars put into funding to fix our roads, to improve our roads, to expand our roads. And it's the #1 complaint I get from residents: traffic congestion, whether it's North Lake, whether it's State Road 7, whether it's Okeechobee, Seminole, Pratt Whitney, you name it, it is a concern and complaint. Nobody wants to expand roads. There is an old school of thought for those people that don't know that if you stop the road from expanding, that you will stop development from coming. That is not true anymore as of 2012. State law changed. All the builder has to do is pay their proportionate share, and they don't have to pay that on failing roads. It's a significantly reduced amount when it is already a failing road, but it won't stop a development or community or buildings from going in just because the roads are failing. So under Governor Rick Scott, we went from we as a commission could say, no, we don't want this because the roads can't handle it. Now we can no longer say that. He said, no, they preempted us. They said, no longer are you allowed to do that. But what we can do is we can make the builder pay their proportionate share of the traffic their community would add to the roads. Now, what do we know about government? It takes 3 times as long and it costs 3 times as much. So I don't believe that these proportionate share payments are paying what it would cost to actually do those improvements.
Especially as we just heard, costs are going to continue to rise.
Correct. And the formula has been around for quite a while. Again, since now they just changed this Florida statutes again. So now we're looking at a whole new program, different from proportionate share. So this is where we have to have interlocal agreements with all the municipalities. And if we do not have them, the builder gets to pick the people that they do their traffic study with. And then we use the builder's traffic study numbers to base what they pay off of. So
In the hen house there, okay.
again, I don't have control over those. Those are all at the state level. I'm just giving you a heads up. When people say, why are you allowing construction to come when our roads can't support it? It's because I can't stop it based on roads. What can I stop? I can stop the changing of zoning. I can stop the changing of certain things that would stop that. But at the end of the day, if it's zoned properly and they are entitled to it, I can't do it. There's nothing I can say to them. I can't say no, or they can come sue us and they will win and cost our residents millions and millions of dollars in lawsuits. So trying to keep that in mind. We have roughly 4,000 units that GL has that haven't been built. Those are permitted, we know about. We have another few thousand over there in Arden. We have a few thousand more in Westlake. We have a few hundred more next to Arden. And then we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the properties that were just annexed in Wellington. So,
And then
with-
commercial, that it goes along with each of those. Well,
right,
not
it
all
was
of
like 1
them.
million square foot of commercial space right there. So keeping this all in mind, if we don't start taking a serious look at roads and what we're going to do with them now, if you think it's bad now, just wait. Roads are a huge, huge problem. I have been fortunate enough to help support and push along any of the road projects currently going on, the North Lake Road projects. They seem to be taking forever, but they're in progress. It's coming along. The ones on Seminole Pratt Whitney were stalled for quite a while because of utility lines. We're looking at going to the legislature and trying to hold some of the utility companies responsible for not only, you know, the dollars that it costs, but delays and so on. So there are different avenues of things we are trying to look at and trying to help with that. But unfortunately, that was out of the county's hands. Also, I'm kind of skipping a little bit, but I want everyone to get the update on certain road projects that are going on. So if you want to skip forward to the next slide, will show you the difference in funding or the 5-year road program. So this is where it was. And then the last bar is where we're at now with the road projects being funded. And this was very, very important to me. It's something I fought for to help solve some of these problems. We, for those of you that don't know, we do collect gas taxes in the county. We get roughly, and I'm estimating here, $70 million. And a prior board to ours voted to take half of those dollars, roughly 35 million of them, and give them to Palmtran. So Palmtran costs us roughly $200 million a year, and we get roughly 65 million from state and federal grant dollars, leaving the other 135 million ad valorem taxpayer dollars. And then there went our gas taxes. This is something I've been fighting to try to correct. I pointed it out to the commission that we had only spent roughly $6 million in ad valorem taxes, which I thought was terrible. And so this is how we got to where we are now. I do a lot of digging. I do a lot of homework into these numbers to try to solve these problems, but they're going to be coming to us, the commission, trying to get us to do a dedicated funding source for transportation. If anyone hears the words dedicated funding source, please think taxes. All it is another tax you will be paying. And for some reason, our residents love to vote yes for more taxes. Because every time it's on a ballot, the majority of people vote yes. So if you see anything about a dedicated funding source, please just remember it's more taxes.
Can I interrupt you?
Of course.
There was a Palmtran pilot program that was happening. Is that going to be out here as well?
We've
Is that
already
for-
started, yes, a pilot program, because if we have this many dollars going to Palmtran, and I will tell you, if I could vote it gone tomorrow, I would. I can't, because I wouldn't get the support for it. And there's many reasons. I think Palmtran should all be east near 95 corridor where there's high density population. What I fought for was a pilot program that looks something like Uber, but through the county. So you can order a ride, because we are also contributing taxpayer dollars and we get no use of Palmtran. So how could we use some of those dollars for the residents out here? It was something like that. So they'll be giving, I believe it's $8 vouchers for people to potentially use, and again, see how it goes. Again, why it's a pilot program. It hasn't been tried before. We're going to try it out, see how it goes, so that we can use those. Their idea is that those vouchers would get you to a bus stop.
There's no local bus
Yeah.
out here.
I'm going to leave that there. I think we know. I've been pretty clear on where I stand on this. But again, trying to get people where they need to go. Now, if they live around the corner for something they need to get to, the voucher would help with that. If they live in certain places, you know, there are certain ways you could use it. And the idea is that the $8 might not get you the whole way there, but you could pay for the rest of the way. So again, pilot program, we'll see how this goes.
It's just nice to see something coming back that we're out of what we're paying out.
Right. So,
Can I ask a quick question on that?
mhm.
So it's $8 through a ride share. Is the ride share through Palmtran or is it like an Uber?
It is an app through the county. So I just had this conversation with the assistant county administrator. I want to try it out myself. So we're scheduling a time for us I want to use the app. I want to see what it's like, order it and go, all right, how does this all come together and work together. I haven't done that as of yet, so everything I know are just questions,
Right.
but I want to actually try it out myself first.
Cause I'm curious if it's gonna be like a discounted rate compared to an Uber, or is it gonna, like an Uber sometimes runs off of demand and the prices spike. So are we gonna try to keep it as a flat rate to where the $8
No,
would go?
great questions. No,
farther?
I will absolutely ask. I haven't asked those questions yet because you are right. Uber does go up based on how
Demand.
busy it is, right? So, no, they're great questions. And again, because it's a pilot program, we're
Mhm.
all gonna have a ton of
Yeah.
questions, like how similar, that's just the most similar.
Right. Just
uh,
curious how that
For
would work.
instance, right? No, I agree.
And let me ask you a question. Is the county paying Uber for this service?
It's not
Other
Uber,
than,
it's our own version of Uber.
okay, so they're actually county vehicles.
Correct. Well,
Okay.
no,
Are you?
they are, it's a different name. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. Maybe Joanne. Joanne, do you know the name of it?
Could you send us more info on it? Is it, if there's anything available?
Well, yeah, we did the county at a board meeting, did a whole workshop on it. So if I can find that, I'll send it to you.
That would be, thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, this way the resident, we can make the residents aware because I'm sure they're not, so.
Mhm.
Right. All right, so then we do have the 5-year road program slide, which should be next. Now, it's gonna look kind of tiny probably for most people. But essentially, the presentation is on my website, so anybody who's like, oh, you went too fast, I didn't see it, just go to the website, the Palm Beach County website, go to my page, all my town hall videos, all the presentations, they're posted so that anyone can see them. We have 60th on here in different sections. I've heard a few people say, why are we only doing Seminole Pratt to 140th and not focusing on the rest of it? No, the whole thing is being looked at, not just one in particular
Will it all be
section.
done at once or?
Again, so they are finalizing things with Westlake, Minto to do a private-public partnership. The idea is that that would save us roughly $10 million having them do it instead of the county. From all the numbers that I heard back and forth. So that is why that people are like, oh, they've had their own things saying about me, but at the end of the day, if I can save taxpayer dollars, I'm gonna do that and work with private industry to get things done. Coconut Boulevard, we have some more slides in here on these different roads, but these are the list of the 5-year road program and where it stands in the district. So if anyone has questions, what's coming up, what's going on, what's been funded, it's all listed right there.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Mhm.
Backtrack to the Westlake Minto build out. Who's going to dictate how many lanes can be placed there? Would Minto be the one dictating that, or like the lane, how many lanes?
The
would be
traffic
there?
study, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, the traffic study dictates that, what's
Okay.
needed.
Perfect. All right. Just
Yeah,
wanted to
it's
make
not
sure.
me or them, it's a traffic study.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
whose traffic study is it?
Whoever's, well, we have our own traffic division, right? That looks at numbers, they look at what is needed, so their input would come into play. I'm not sure if Minto is gonna do a separate traffic study, but right now they're only looking at one lane, I believe in either direction between Seminole Pratt Whitney and 140th. And, because I don't even think right there's no like homes to turn into, there's no turn off, so I don't even think there's a center lane, because it's not. Divided with turn lanes into the where needed. There you go.
Thank you.
You want to
Are we
repeat
taking
that?
Questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
The current agreement that we're working with Minto on includes a requirement for them to build a 2-lane median divided roadway with turn lanes to the entrances as needed, expandable to 4 lanes in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Aren't you planning on building 5 lanes east of 140th?
I'm not.
Well, I think that's what's on the plans.
Have we gotten to design yet? Just started design for 5 lanes east.
So can somebody explain to me the logic of building 2 lanes from Seminole Pratt to 140th and 5 lanes east of 140th?
I asked the same question. It's because it's considered a free flowing section of the road. because there's not a bunch of turnoffs. So if you look at an aerial or a map, not sure if we have a better slide that would show that. Yeah, if you would
know
go
what
to
it
the
looks like.
next
It's-
slide.
So, so that brings up a question to me then. So if you're looking at
Well, that's
entrances into Westlake right there,
not entrances, like, so off of 60th east of 140th,
uh-huh,
there's homes
right,
all the way along.
Right.
If you go west of 140th, you don't have homes that pull out onto
right.
the road. You're not gonna have a bunch of exits entering and exiting the road into even Minto or Westlake. It's just a straight, solid road. Does that make
So,
sense?
Yeah, so but if in the design, they add more, will that justify widening it? And that's probably a question
Add
for
more what?
Joanne. Justify widening that portion. So we're saying that if there's no entrances, no ingress, no egress at all from Seminole Pratt to 140th, 2 lanes is plenty. But then let's say they say, well, we want one over here and we want one over here. What's the parameter to justify making it wider? I guess is my question. How many entrances do there have to be to make it wider?
I don't think entrances would make that wider. I believe more units
be
being
trim.
built or coming in west of that area if we had more traffic, but yeah. So if, let's say GL builds all 4,000 units, it might need to be wider.
And then you've got all the industrial and commercial along 60th west of Seminole Pratt. So that will trigger, I would assume also.
And it's a unit thing, right? It's based on traffic numbers. And so where it stands now, and I believe they've already calculated in all of what's going to be built in Westlake. I believe, yeah, it's already taken into account what's there now. So we're talking about future units that have not been,
Right. So when all that industrial goes in, we can revisit making it wider, basically.
if need be, again,
Right.
because there's no stopping or turning off.
You know it's gonna be a need be.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
not be.
Yeah.
fools.
So we'll go from there. But again, that is the logic behind why it would have to be. It would only be 2 lanes versus 5. The 5 lanes will help residents too that live along 60th to better get on and off because people can move over to another lane. And they wanted the center lane so that people could, safely stop to turn into their properties.
Okay.
Not that anyone wants 5 lanes in front of their house. That doesn't escape me. But again, as I've already pointed out, we have thousands and units coming on. We have to have roads. And unfortunately, this is
Looking at several 100,000 more cars on the road when all this is built out.
correct. And my heart does go out to anyone who lives on 60th. It doesn't escape me that that's terrible. But where we have to find a balance of what's good for the entire community. And unfortunately, that is that.
Through the chair. The district has an adopted mobility plan and, probably about 5 years ago, the county commission, decided and directed staff to work with ITID staff regarding the mobility plan design. And, as I understand it, that has not happened. And our mobility plan is being ignored. So can you address why that is, that the county is not implementing our mobility plan design, which is for our residents?
Would you go to slide 27, please? I see the bottom corner. Yep, 25, 20, yeah, there you go. Mobility plan. I have a copy of the full mobility plan in my office. I familiar with what was being presented. There are several reasons that the mobility plan, there are certain things I think are great about it. Actually, if you will go to the next slide. Okay, so one has it. Okay, perfect. I don't know if anyone in this room can see this, but there's a yellow, a blue, and a red line. So the county has enough current right of way of 80 foot to do Coconut. That's to the yellow line. The mobility plan that was suggested would go to the red line, taking more of residents' properties. So I am not in favor of that. If you will go back to the previous slide. This is what's on the mobility plan to go in. So we would have to have all the residents on Coconut agree that they want to give up that much more of their property to make that mobility plan come to fruition. And I haven't heard any residents wanting to give up more of their property to make this mobility plan happen. So that is one of the reasons why some of it hasn't happened, but I do know the mobility plan is much more complex than just Coconut. I do know that there was an issue which I had started to look into with, I believe it was stop signs. Like you guys wanted certain areas for safety. And this was a long time ago I asked, so I have to ask Joanne to come up and maybe refresh my memory, but there was another reason we couldn't put stop signs everywhere that was in their mobility plan.
Similar to a traffic signal, the stop signs have to meet certain criteria to be warranted. And I can't speak to it right now because I haven't reviewed all your locations, but the last time we met, I think you guys were going to go back, see which ones were warranted, and also see which ones were on county roads versus Indian Trail Improvement roads, because we don't have the authority over your Indian Trail Improvement roads to install those stop signs.
Okay, with all due respect, my initial question was with respect to 60th Street, but I'm glad that you brought up the stop signs because we actually did spend, I don't know, how much money did we spend on this study, jumping through all the hoops for the county and provided that and have had umpteen meetings, and we still do not have the stop signs at 10 high crash locations that have been studied and warranted by the traffic engineers in the county. We were promised if we spent the money and did this, all the studying and provide the warrants, that the county would put those stop signs in. And that was 4 years ago now that we did the study.
Through the chair, it was they started the study around 2018, and then we provided it to the county sometime in like the late summer of 2019, I
Right.
believe.
And it was incorporated into our mobility plan.
Right,
With
so-
respect to 60th though, 60th was a 5-lane design. And it had, similar to this, but I think that we agreed that on 60th, it would just be the one side because we asked for a wall on the other side to be able to lessen the right of way. Wasn't that right? Yeah. So, I still don't understand why we don't have that design being considered and incorporated into the design for 60th.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm familiar with the stop sign discussion on 60th yet, but West Palm Beach did conceptually approve the wall, so we are on,
Okay.
we are go for that.
And so are we building medians and trees and buffering and a multi-purpose path as we requested in our mobility plan? Or, I mean, if you're not familiar with it, I'm sure our staff will gladly meet with you before you.
We
finish
just
this
started
up.
design. So yes, I have been fighting for a multi-purpose path. But we did not have enough with the multi-purpose path. We did not have then enough right of way to add vegetation for buffering. So there was a discussion that we would potentially maybe send out a letter or so on and see if residents wanted to allow us to install but not maintain potentially some buffering on their properties. That hasn't occurred yet because once again, we just started design and haven't gotten to that.
And
that
do
place
we
yet.
have the requirements for the canal side? Because that's gotta come
Yeah,
from
it's
West
gonna have a
Palm, right?
wall.
It's
They-
gonna have
Right.
a wall,
Huge buffer.
Right.
So-
So it's still gonna be a wall.
correct?
Through the chair, just because, well, Michael, I think you were here when we did the mobility plan. And just to correct the record on Coconut Street. That whole discussion on Coconut was to actually Indian Trail work in concert with the county in obtaining the proper buffers for the residents along Coconut. And, you know, because not for nothing, I don't think there's anybody that I've talked to that wants to have their beautiful dirt lake road. I'm talking about 60th, and there's a section of it that is going to be turning into, it's a dirt road now, and it's going to turn into 5 lanes of traffic that's going to look like Royal Palm Beach Boulevard from 40th to 60th, which is ugly. The pathway is 3 feet wide with telephone poles in the middle of them. There's no medians, there's no trees, and there's no other community in the county that would accept that happening in front of their homes. And so when we did the mobility study, that's what we were talking about. And that was what we were trying to avoid, is to give ideas, but also that it would make it safer for our residents with respect to bicycling, walking,
Horses.
you know, we have the whole gamut in our community, and I think we deserve it. So that's what the discussion was. And I think that when people understand, here's what your option is, you're going to have 5 lanes of concrete in front of your house with 50,000 cars going past your house a day, as opposed to trying to make it look like a nicer road with some landscaping and some buffering and some protections. I think people are going to choose the latter. So
I disagree. I do think people want something that looks nice, but when it comes to potentially giving up part of their property, I don't think that we can just universally accept that would be their option. But to that note, this all took place prior to me coming into office. All these conversations, the mobility, everything was in motion 2 years prior to me taking office. So I walked into this and I played catch up trying to find out what had taken place and where it stood. And when I spoke to staff, they told me that they had left it with the former Indian Trail Improvement District Board, because I think a lot of you are new now, that you guys were going to reach out to residents and get them to agree to making this wider.
Yeah, if I may.
Absolutely.
quickly, Yeah,
Mhm.
we said we would work with them. It is a county road and a county project, and they needed to spearhead the meetings, when, who, and all of that.
you're just talking about Coconut.
But-
Coconut, and
Oh,
even
60th,
60th,
right.
anything that was county roads, we were not going to spearhead it on their behalf.
But the
We-
county has enough right of way,
Yeah.
80 feet, to put what they want in there. So anything above and beyond that is to the benefit of ITID
It's actually not.
and the
to
residents.
Benefit at all.
It
It's
is.
to the benefit of the property owner
Yeah.
that is adjacent.
Well,
to the
again, they
project.
have to give up part of their property
They-
in
well,
order to get this,
in-
and not just one or
in
two
my
of them. We're talking
discussions with
all
them,
of them.
There's a very simple way around that. They do a temporary easement for landscape installation. And then as Ms. Culler said, then they can take over maintenance.
Or how
So
about we
that's
just
what
not
we
build
said.
5-lane roads on residential roads that have driveways on them that were never meant to be like that?
Again, back to the point of traffic and units.
Please, guys.
Traffic and units are coming. If you think that it's going away, it's not. We have thousands of more units coming on. And just saying no more roads, no wider, it can't be the solution, because it's only gonna make residents feel more trapped and more miserable in the long run.
May I interject?
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. Couple things. Let's continue this discussion right here. I think it would be a terrible idea for the county to come in and start widening Coconut, Orange, and any of those. That is what the city of West Palm Beach wants, and they want to push State Road 7 through the acreage. If we, in my opinion, if those roads get widened and the Florida Department of Transportation does not win the litigation of State Road 7, which is the #1 road project in the state. Remember, folks, I was 3 years on the Palm Beach Transportation Agency Citizens Advisory Committee representing District 6. If State Road 7 is not done, in my opinion, and these roads get widened, Florida DOT is going to drop State Road 7. I really believe that. And that's what the city wants. And they have been lying for 35, 40 years about this road. This is not about water contamination at all. I'm sorry, about snail kites. I'm sorry. their water's already contaminated and everybody knows it. And so
I
that is,
think
that is a. front
Everyone's
that
in
they're putting
favor
through.
of State Road 7
Absolutely.
connecting to North Lake.
Pia, please.
Everyone is in favor of State Road 7 connecting to North Lake.
And-
And it's currently right now still, as you know, it's still waiting for a ruling
Mhm.
to come back to see where that happens to land. As far as Coconut going to 5 lanes, I don't disagree with what you're saying that they might try, but I don't see how they could.
They've been talking about going, they said they want this road to, West Palm wants this road to go west. They've been saying that for years.
West Palm is saying that, but the county doesn't want that. No one else wants that, and it's a county road.
But I believe if that road gets widened, DOT is just gonna drop the whole thing and they're gonna be done with this. That's my feeling. I really believe I'm right.
I mean, I will have a conversation with Stephen Braun, the head of
Mhm.
our district for FDOT, but there's no way that the county would support that. I mean,
It would
go
be un-
listen
it would
to
be
TPA,
unintentional.
the TPA meetings. Again, I'm on that board. Everybody supports State Road 7 going through. Nobody would want to fund anything like
No,
Coconut,
everybody does not support.
except for West Palm Beach, excuse me. There's always the two West Palm
Boynton
Beach.
Beach has not wanted it. Lake Worth Beach has not wanted it.
We just took the vote again. We all
So did
decided
we
to keep
see the
it.
Votes.
Yes, we
Okay.
all decided to keep it as a number 1 priority with our list of projects.
Mhm. Okay.
So the only ones that vote no, again, are the West Palm Beach councilmen and women who sit on that board.
And in regards to the stop signs, what Supervisor Argy brought up about the stop signs and the study and everything. Everybody knows my pet peeve and what I ran on was all my years of fire rescue and the very horrific crashes we had out here at our two-way stops. And I know that they mentioned 10 intersections. And some of those intersections that I've had fatalities at, and I'm talking very serious crashes, weren't even on that list. And that was my number 1 goal that I spoke about for running for this board. That is imperative that we somehow bridge our gap between ITID and Palm Beach County. That has to be fixed.
And I would love to work together to see where it stands now, where we're moving forward and how we can move this forward and what that looks like. I would also, we can schedule a meeting and have you come in and talk to county staff. I'm here for you guys. If you ever need anything, call me, ask, I will arrange it and make all the people who know the answers in that room with us.
And that's my plan, but there's a lot of things that have actually come up that are big things going on here.
Mhm.
That's kind of set me back a little bit. But those are imperative, those 4-way stops, and they work. And for instance, 140th and Orange, one of our busiest intersections, me personally, 15 years right next door at this fire station, I never even ran a fender bender in there. But the 2-way stops are devastating. I've had children, adults, high schoolers killed on their way home. And it's an easy fix. It'll lessen response time, responses for fire rescue. These crashes are 3 and 4 fire station responses, when we're extricating and flying in trauma hawks and things like this. It's terrible for the families. It would be a tremendous benefit for our entire community. So I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. You
Work
have
on
my phone number.
Through the chair.
Mhm.
For just, my recollection is that, what was it, 2022? When were you elected?
November of 22.
Okay, so right before, under Commissioner McKinley, very close to, I thought we had a verbal agreement with the county and engineering staff. We were waiting on an agreement in writing, weren't we?
ILA for the process.
And,
for that.
and then that suddenly stopped. Why did that ILA stop? Yeah, we don't know. So it would be nice to know. I mean, that's what the status is. We did our part.
We don't have record of a response on the comments from you guys on that. And then
On
go
what?
forward on the ILA.
ILA?
We never received responses back.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's something we can follow up on, but right now, standing here, I can't say that we ever received a response on our comments.
Or just,
Abs-
can you make
absolutely.
sure, find that?
I
and-
know we did
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
Mr. Palin met with, I forget, the assistant attorney's name now that works with, the county, engineering department, but we have, Liz, I can't think of her last name, but we did, and we pretty much thought it was done. In fact, Mr.
We
Foy,
were
do you
waiting
have?
on the ILA.
Yeah.
Okay, so please, Burgess and Frank, please follow up on this right away, please. And re-forward whatever was sent. Thank you.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
Thank you. As far as Coconut
Good.
Mm-hmm,
running north to the,
to be like.
Beeline, yes, thank you. Where are they at with that? From what I understood, it was gonna be once the 1,000th home was CO'd in there, they were gonna make the connection.
Right, I heard the same thing. So they can't go beyond 1,000 certificates of occupancy until it connects.
So what I'm nervous is about, because things change, right? So State Road 7's been planned since 1948. Everybody knows we're coming. Ibis was built, they agreed to it, and then all of a sudden, boom, here we are all these years later, no State Road 7. And, you know, I don't know where City Gardens is with this, or Commissioner Marino, and what their discussions are as far as that being pushed through, and getting it completed. If the road's there and the homes aren't built yet, the people are still gonna build their homes and they're gonna be fine. But if the homes are there and the road's not, then they go, oh.
Well, there's
we're
a
gonna
lot
push
more
this
than
road.
1,000 homes slated to be built in there.
Oh,
So
I understand that.
they can't go beyond that until the road connects.
But he's
This-
what he's saying,
I-
it
let's
could
not-
change because the people the residents that purchase the homes are gonna be like, I don't want this road. Wait a minute.
Mhm.
I doubt they would want, I mean, because just like everyone else, they have to go on to North Lake. I can't imagine in any world that
But is
somebody
there-
wouldn't wanna be able to exit another
But if
way.
they
other
try
than
that,
North Lake.
you'll fight against that, right? If
Right,
they
of
were to
course.
try
No,
that-
absolutely. It needs to connect. Absolutely. It has to. And that's part of a development order. And I get what you're saying about State Road 7, but I think there were some lessons learned with that as well. Which is why it's set up this way, because you can't keep building the homes without the road connecting then. That means 1,000 is it. I mean, that might be a win in itself, but no,
Right.
the road needs to connect.
Right. And, you know, to elaborate on that, we need something east-west.
So as an update to your question, Avenir Development is responsible for building that road. And in October, I had communication with them, and the construction, it was about to go out for bid. I don't think it went out until November, or December. But once the bid is awarded and construction begins, they expect it to be about 18 months for construction.
Thank you.
And as I recall, the county turned over the crossing for the Beeline to the Avenir Development, which they never should have done, but.
Again, that took place before I was here. And I'm gonna actually give her some credit. I agree with you.
Her has a name, but thank you.
Yeah.
I agree with Supervisor Argue, excuse me,
Thank you.
that I think the other connection would have been better. This was already in place, so all we can do is make sure that it happens. Uh-huh, please.
All right, Seminole Pratt,
Mm-hmm,
all the way north.
that's what we're talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking
No,
about.
no,
No, you're talking about,
I was
oh.
talking about the extension of Coconut.
Coconut,
That's what you were
Oh,
talking
Yes, I
about.
was.
Yeah, and then the crossing to the Beeline, right? Because it's gonna go around.
so
the Bee-
Seminole Pratt was originally supposed to go all the way up to the Beeline and
You're-
cross. They
you're-
gave up that
years ago.
crossing, which is what I thought we were talking about, and then
They-
gave it to Avenir.
For the extension of.
For the
Coconut,
extension of
which will
Coconut.
Connect to
Mhm.
Beeline.
But what about Seminole Pratt North somehow working it in there? I mean, that was
I-
talked about years ago, and then that was brought off the tin because of natural area or something like that.
And then it was put back on the TIM, but it has not been made a priority. And it would actually make sense to build that road before you do any more construction on North Lake.
They're in the road plans. Seminole Pratt Whitney going north to the north side and then connecting on the west side of Avenir is also something we're looking at as far as another east-west connector. And I don't believe we have that image. We do. Because there you go.
That's not.
We've redone this roads thing to kind of suit what we were talking about today, but this is what is being proposed. So it going north and then across.
Through the chair. The TPA maps actually show it going north, you know, where it's the blue line, and then it goes orange. It going north rather than turning where it turns the orange line, and going up that way. So
Just to the left of the yellow, in other words, where the blue line stops going north from there.
yeah. So take a look at the TPA map, because
Well, I mean,
there's some differences in terms of what people are thinking about and where it's gonna go.
again, this is just a proposal. It hasn't been designed. It hasn't been aligned. It's just a thought of another way we can move people east to west to east, east to west. And in addition to North Lake, knowing that the road is going to connect. Again, trying to move traffic in a more efficient way.
Just real quick, this has nothing to do with the county, so
Okay.
don't worry. Mr. Ferris, our city manager, said over his dead body when Mr.
For
Foy and
that,
I met
right.
with him a month ago, that the way this is aligned right now will happen. Just, and I'm sure you're aware of it, or
No.
Mr. Riggs or.
Again, we are proposing this. We haven't even gotten to the point of design. We haven't gotten to the point of funding. We are looking at different ideas. This is a proposed idea because we can only have one crossing, as we all know, across the railroads. Apparently, it takes a miracle to get anything more than one. I've asked a lot of questions in regards to that as well, which is why they had to give up one to get one. And then this was another alternative, but Palm Beach Gardens doesn't agree with a lot of things that Indian Trails Improvement District or residents like, disliked, don't want to do want to do. There's a small section on North Lake that needs, we need additional right of way if we ever want to make North Lake 8 lanes. And who would benefit from that? Our residents. Who hates it? Ibis and Palm Beach Gardens.
But they deal with the same traffic we deal with. That's what I don't get.
I don't get it either. I don't pretend to be a
I
mind.
get it. I get it. It's been an indoctrination of years of this water contamination lie, and it's been passed down and passed down. And my mom was in one of those West Palm neighborhoods built on what they call their drinking water. And she says the people in here are completely indoctrinated into believing that if the State Road 7 extension is built, that their water will be contaminated. However, they probably have no idea they're showering in the parking lots of Orlando in the Magic Kingdom and phosphorus and blue-green algae and all that other stuff. So,
Or that North Lake already goes through.
and
Or that.
exactly.
So they're
Development is already
built,
there.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, right. And so all of us know this, right? But they fight it and they're
Right.
along North Lake. 2 different commissioners share it. You have, Commissioner Weiss just announced it's official. He is running for mayor of West Palm Beach. So he's not going to vote for anything that West Palm Beach hates, right? And then you have, Mayor Marino now, excuse me, who is on the north side of North Lake. So, and she's fighting for Palm Beach Gardens. So when we come to the commission meeting and I'm saying, no, my residents need 8 right of way, 8 lanes, not just 6. It's a battle, which is why I'm reach out to residents and I will try to tell them, hey, this is what's coming up. If you want to come to a commission meeting into the chambers and fight for something, that's worth fighting for. Help get enough right of way to give our residents some relief. That would be amazing. So that's just kind of a rough overview. We've covered 60th, we've covered North Lake, we've covered connecting to Beeline. I mean, there's a lot of road slides I'm not going to go through because I think we've kind of gone out of order anyways, but any more roads that, I mean, State Road 7, everyone asks, first question, why isn't State Road 7 connecting? It's in litigation. Oh, you have the stop sign, yeah?
Well, I was just updated while we were sitting there from the stop sign perspective and the ILA. I don't think I have the comments back on the ILA, but regardless of that, we've been placed on hold from direction by the county attorney's office until the private versus public litigation issue is resolved on both of those items. Thank you.
So it is resolved because we have a court order, but when you say that it's on hold, Is it on hold pending the appeal being decided on?
From our
or-
county attorney tells us that we can take no action until something else changes. At this point, we are on hold.
Just through the chair, just if I may, just for clarification, it's not private versus public. It's
Right.
private versus district roads.
Right.
versus- Because that's the definition.
Thank you.
We do not fall under public.
Right. Patty?
Just a quick question to go back to the whole law change back in 2011 under Rick Scott. What can citizens do? Because this is not just affecting Palm Beach County. This has got to be affecting all of state of Florida. I mean, we're under a massive growth boom. What can the citizens do? Do we write to our representatives or senators? Like,
I mean, it's your legislature that
yeah,
can change it, right?
Right.
It's your state reps, your state senators, that could potentially, correct. You can write them letters.
so let's put a plea out to our residents, start writing letters to our representatives and our senators to make a change. And it has to be through the state. And I don't know if it's something that we as Indian Trail could send to put on the radar. And I don't know if we can, maybe at our next county meeting, and when we're up at the Tallahassee, we start talking to people about contacting and making a change, because there's no reason why we have to sit here and just take it because it's a law now. I mean, they were able to change it in 2011. Maybe if we get enough voices out there, we can make a change.
They just changed it last year to
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, but we need more. We need more. We need.
I don't disagree.
Yeah,
Listen,
so
I'll
I
be up
think
And
there,
they're
fighting with
lobbying
you to get it.
constantly
Yeah.
to
It's
time
make it
for-
better for them.
it's time for the people to lobby for themselves,
Mhm.
basically. It's time for the people to do that.
Where most people are impacted are in higher density areas, right? So we're talking Miami, Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County. I mean, now it's moving north, right? Martin, St. Lucie, like
Yeah.
it's highly dense areas that are gonna feel it the most. So a lot of the rural areas in the state aren't feeling the repercussions of
Yet.
this yet.
Yet. Well,
We are.
aren't,
We are,
don't we
for
have
sure.
3/4 of the county population north of Lake Worth Road?
I'm not
We
sure
do.
about those numbers, but
We
if
do.
you say it, sure.
We do. 3/4. There's 1.5 and there's not even, oh, we'll call it 500,000 from Lake Worth Road down to the county line south. So we are, and our area just continues to grow. So it is crucial. You gotta go to Fort Myers and see the planning that's going on there. Wow. So
Yeah.
I give Palm Beach County a lot of credit after running through there. And,
now. Until it grows more, because
oh no, they put, this is another conversation, but it's bad. And they didn't leave any room for widening at all.
Yeah.
And traffic, just one lane for miles and miles and miles of traffic. So, and a lot of incompatibility. And I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves is the incompatibility. And we've had these conversations about, different things that are happening, and it's really important to us to keep our identity.
Agreed.
So anything you can do to help on that? Obviously, there are property rights and your hands are somewhat limited, but whatever can be done would be appreciated.
I mean, no, absolutely. And you, I'm sure, have met with some of the people that have met with me also, that I push for if you want to build out here, you build 1 acre lots that that
Right.
match the rest of us for compatibility. I've pushed for less density in places. I pushed, again, I talked about this, the neighborhood just east of Arden, to have them, when they constructed, not only was I able to get the units to almost half of what they were proposing, also they are a graduated system of larger lots towards the 5 acre lots that are on the top of that community. I mean, that was my first zoning meeting after getting elected, was that development. So, just fighting to try to keep the density low, trying to keep and improve infrastructure and prepare for all these permitted units that were approved way before I took office. I mean, I stepped into thousands of already permitted units that could be built
And
tomorrow.
the start of Live Local.
Well,
which
and
is
then
a whole
live
nother-
local, there's For people that don't know what live local is, basically the state preempted us again, right? So on certain zoned properties, they don't even have to come to the Board of County Commissioners or any local electeds anymore. They can use an administrative process. But it's only on certain zoned properties. And I hesitate to bring this up because I'm not going to answer questions on it, but I will fill you in on something. The property that Coulter with Palm Beach Gardens is proposing to build those apartments on, I'm not in favor of. They tried to tell me that it falls under live local. It does not, because it isn't zoned properly.
Right.
For live local. So if they ever try to tell you that, no,
Thank you for that.
you're welcome. And also I'm still working. I've had conversations with them of, can we not? I'm trying to find out if Palm Beach Gardens is supporting, the build of those. Is it just the builder of those? So I'm still digging into that, but no, I'm not a fan. And so I'm trying to,
And we were trying to figure out, looking at the site plan, what that one south, looking at it, so it would be southeast section that we were looking at, that we were trying to figure out, is it a hospital? Is it? Did
I
you,
think a lot of times they build if it's a medical space, I'm not sure what
'cause
you're,
it says daybed on the plan.
Southeast of what? Which?
I can't remember if it was
It would be almost in the center, south center of that
near, not far
property.
from the lake.
Which one, 140th or?
Yeah,
Avocado?
140th.
Oh,
Yeah.
because it runs to.
Yeah,
okay.
cause it says daybed, so that just,
So it
daybed?
could be
It-
like,
It almost looks like it's either like a assisted, I don't know, that'd be assisted living, but like a little ER or something, I don't know. We couldn't
rehab
figure it out.
or something, I don't know. so
outpatient,
Was it-
something.
I don't know,
That's
so
what day beds usually are.
figure that out.
again, that's Palm Beach Gardens.
I know,
So it doesn't come to me.
I know.
Before
Right.
we go too much further, speaking to all of the roads and the growth management laws that were gutted. I watched the meeting for the county regarding your priorities, and I didn't really see anything on there regarding working towards reinstituting growth management laws and then also dealing with the whole concurrency versus proportionate share versus, I mean,
That's what was gutted.
I know it was gutted, but there's other parts of that were gutted as well. What was passed last year in terms of saying that now counties, municipalities, and even special districts can't charge for failing roads, assessments. I mean, these are things that, are a burden to the taxpayer because, when Minto was being built, and this was in 2014, the numbers were for Minto's development alone, that it was going to create $100 million shortfall. I don't know what $100 million in 2014 equates to today's dollars, but just for Minto. And that shortfall falls on us, the county residents who are paying the taxes. And that in and of itself is, I would argue, a tax on the residents. So if you're against taxes and you're against, the people having to bear the burden for private industry, then I would think that that would be a good argument to take with the legislature, because it really isn't right the way that it is. And before the laws were changed and gutted completely, I agree that the pendulum was way over here. If there was a failing road, if there was already insufficient infrastructure, a developer had to bear that burden 100%. But then we took that pendulum and we went completely over here, and now the burden is on the taxpayer and not on the developer. The developer is taking all that money, putting it in their pocket and running.
Again, I
So-
agree with you.
So we have to find a way where we can be in the middle. And yes, there are some shortfalls and we do benefit as taxpayers, but we shouldn't be having to flip the bill.
I agree.
And that's exactly what has been happening ever since. We're really starting to see in Palm Beach County, I think now, the result of ignoring this problem since it began in 2011. So anyway, and a lot of these decisions, by the way, the developments we're dealing with out here, it started in 2011. That's where, people started to look at the acreage again and, oh my gosh, look at all the land that's out here. And it's only going to get worse. I mean, we've just had along North Lake, one development after another popping up, and North Lake is already failing before it's even widened. So,
It's failed.
yeah.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, we're good.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it. And again, everybody can go to the commissioner's website and look at this more thoroughly. And of course, they can reach out to you
Of
if they have
course.
questions.
All right. Thank
Right.
you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you
great
for
evening.
coming. Okay, item 6.3. PBSO update by Lieutenant Sowers. There she is.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make this pretty brief. So the traffic accidents for this session have not increased and have not decreased. We're still at about 19. And out of those 19, we had 4 traffic crashes with injuries. Thankfully, there were no fatalities this month. I did want to update you on one event that occurred. On the 14th, our speed and aggressive driving unit was out, and they were operating on a grant, and they specifically were running an operation in your area, and it resulted in 101 traffic stops, 72 citations. Of those 72, 37 were for speeding, and 68 written warnings. So our guys are out there. And
Over what period of time did that take place?
that was only over 5 hours.
That was one day?
Wow.
5
5
hours.
hours.
Day.
5 hours. 32 speeders were caught, 67
Yeah,
warnings, so we could say.
From 5 o'clock until 5 to 10.
So safe to say that those 67 might have been speeders also, that were warnings?
The 35 were speed warnings
Oh, okay.
of the.
Of the 67.
Yes.
So we had 67 people speeding. And what road was it? Or is it all over?
It was all over.
It was all
There was a
over.
focus on Seminole Pratt, though.
Just right. So this is what we're dealing with on Seminole Pratt.
Yes.
Wow.
And everywhere.
Yes.
Well,
And
everywhere,
everywhere.
right, but
It's
we,
unfortunate, but as you guys
Traffic
were discussing
increases.
with the traffic, with your roadway issues and the increased traffic comes this.
right,
And that's why we ask all the residents to please travel safely and be mindful of all the traffic, just devices that are out there. So, but the crashes themselves weren't anywhere in specific this time, because sometimes we'll have some clusters. No clusters this time. It was just pretty much scattered throughout.
And
Everybody's speeding everywhere.
yeah.
Oh, it's
And distracted driving
Yeah.
everywhere.
it's ridiculous. I can sit in my personal vehicle and watch, 4 cars run a red light, a solid red light. So it's out of control, but we also have to manage our own selves. That's where it starts. So
Is the speed sign that's on Seminole Pratt? I remember Captain Turner telling us a year or so ago that they were gonna have cameras taking pictures and issuing tickets. Are those speed enforcements yet?
no, we do not have. we
Not
do
yet.
Have speed enforcement
Okay.
cameras.
I
Okay.
think Lux Gross is looking at it for October.
Well, I know Captain Turner said Westlake was, so that's why I'm,
Some of the other areas are looking at different things, but I believe Loxahatchee Groves was looking at it's mainly for the school zones is what they're looking at for the traffic enforcement. There's other
right. I
programs
heard
out there
that,
that
yeah.
they're looking into at this point in time. I'm not sure what the status of it is, if it moved forward or not, but there are different programs out there that other areas are looking at.
Thank you.
So.
Um, I know there's the PSA for the off-road vehicles I guess I don't know if it was revamped or it's still the same one from last year. Can that be shared on social media, on the PBSO page?
Yeah, we actually our PIO did push it out on social media, but
Okay.
we are addressing it to have it pushed out on other platforms. And we actually.
Is it the same one from last year? Cause I watched that.
It is the same one from last year.
Excellent. Okay, great, great.
So
Okay,
in-
because there was there was some misinformation that was put out in the town prior that off-road vehicles were permitted on the roads. So that needs to be corrected on their end because we don't want people to think, well, they said it was okay when it's really not. So,
We brought some flyers
Yep,
today.
and I
see some of
appreciate
them.
that.
So,
Yes.
you know, that will outline the law for you and, you know, we can certainly arrange for additional, informational flyers and.
That would be
and
great.
Additional PSAs. It needs to be pushed out on various platforms. Unfortunately, we don't always have access to some of those platforms.
Right.
You know, so, but we are actively going to push that out and we can bring you more literature as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Anybody else have a question?
And you guys are invited anytime to come out here and run radar. As far as I'm concerned, it can be every day. And you know, I know the residents, a lot of them hated it, but when Gardens was running that radar on North Lake for about a year and everybody caught wind of it, we didn't have any crashes. And as soon as that stopped,
Our guys
It-
are out
it
there where
picked
they're
back up.
very active with their radars, lasers and, what have you. So, you know, they've all been, instructed to ramp it up and we've been in contact with, you know, with Burgess. And he tells us all the problematic areas that are being told to him. So we do address those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Patty.
I'm good. Thank you.
And to that point, and I agree with you because, you know, people don't like the traffic calming that we've been doing. And so, Commissioner Baxter's still here. The reason why we had to do traffic calming is because of the fact that we don't have enough enforcement for speeding out here. As well as we have these high crash locations. And we have people speeding through on our residential roads. And the district was left with trying to figure out how do we address this within the authority that we have. And so I know people don't like the traffic calming, but the research that I've done, reading recently, is that in and of itself is not enough. Lowering speed limits and also having more traffic enforcement in concert with that will actually create the safer roads. So I think that is the goal that we were trying to get to. But we can only do our part, which is the traffic calming part.
Yeah.
So I asked the county and PBSO to please look at what you can do as often as you can do enforcement.
Sure. And
it-
we're willing to sit down and discuss some of what your goals are. And, you know, we're absolutely in partnership. So we can certainly sit down and come up with a plan together as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, item 6.4, fire rescue update with District Chief Romero. And before you even get started, what do you think about the speed bumps? Are the new ones better?
We're being honest?
Yes.
Personally or professionally? I guess personally it doesn't really matter.
No,
does it?
so give me professional, and we'll talk later
Professionally
personally.
speaking, it adds to our respect.
Even
It
the
slows
new
us down.
ones.
Even the new ones, yeah. Yeah, I mean, those engines are very heavy, carrying a lot of water, and the rescues are heavy as well, and they're carrying a lot of specialty equipment and things like that, and we do have to slow down too. And then if you're have a patient in the back with you, certainly you don't want to jostle the patient around at all either, so you do have to take your time, slow down. So it does add.
But
it
the new
does add
narrow
time.
ones, I mean, I know my truck almost makes it over, like I'm just barely touching the edge of
We're
one of my
talking about-
tires. So with
So like
your
it goes
trucks,
between the wheels, you mean?
right? So your trucks have to have a wider
They do.
wheelbase than mine.
They do.
So that I mean,
That's the reason why they're designed the way they are.
right, this is my question, like, so are the new ones where they might be a little harder on the smaller cars?
Mhm.
My concern, obviously, we want to slow down speeding, but my concern is fire rescue and PBSO, but I know they're driving, most of them out here are driving trucks. So are you able to straddle them? Because I see and hear, oh, they can't. But if my F-250 can almost, I can't see how yours can.
I would think that they do,
Okay.
but we would have to, had you tested that at all with any of our
Sure.
units? Had anybody run that?
Actually, I'll let the engineer, but These are the ones that were approved by the county engineering department, including with
Are
Palm Beach
these
Fire.
Seminole
Fire
ones
Chief. Yeah,
that you're-
well,
No.
those are
No?
Seminole
Seminole.
speed tables.
Oh,
These are
gotcha.
speed cushions, and they're
Okay.
used throughout the United States and Canada,
Mhm.
specifically because fire rescue engines can straddle them. So, but anyway. You wanna add?
I got a comment on that.
Yeah.
Hello, thank you for being
Hi.
here. Nice to see you.
I knew once you got comfortable, you'd be something else.
Yes, thank you.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New My phone's blowing up. The front wheels are straddling. The rear dualies are touching.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned to you that we would get together. It's just been so busy.
Mhm.
And I've talked to some of the guys and I said, just make notes of it. And I know we got the different, the humps, bumps, tables, and some of these new cushions. And they said it is affecting them.
Okay.
But I want to get a collective, collectively from all three shifts over here. And, mostly the unit attached guys who are here the most and talk about this and decide, what's the lesser of two evils? Are these effective? A lot of people complain about them and there are people out there that love them. But I think some of the people that complain about them are probably, they were meant for you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Exactly.
you're right. Good point.
But on the other hand, people with their horses and trailers and things like that, they wreak havoc on them. And my lawn guy just told me he had to spend $1,000 on his trailer because something with the torsion axle broke because of one of the speed humps from speed cushions, tables, whatever.
I had a death wobble from a little patch they did on Seminole Pratt. That
Mhm.
cost me a lot of money and that's only like this high. So yeah,
But anyways,
So I
We'll
have
get
not
together.
received any feedback from any of the local staff. But that would be my suggestion is to get together and, observe and see them, drive the route and we can do a time trial too to see. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you.
Chair, just for the record, we did do time trials, before and after. One example would have been, where was it? Greatview, that we had those speed bumps that were really torrid. Those ones that were narrow and
Mm,
you hit them.
Like on
Years ago.
70th.
Huh?
Oh, yeah.
from several years ago, like
Yeah.
6 or 7 years
Yeah.
ago.
And people are still complaining about, well, why did you remove those and put what you did, put less? But the reason why we replaced those is in working with fire rescue and doing response times testing, was that those ones really did they did damage to cars,
They were
but they
awful.
also were
We literally had
horrible
to stop.
for response times, and it was also when you had to go over that with a patient in the back.
Mhm.
So those things were taken into consideration. But we also, as a board, weighed the fact that we have to do something, and we don't have the money to do everything that we'd like to do all at one time. And so, just so you know, I personally prefer the asphalt ones, but and that is the goal, is that if we have to continue to have them, then we can put asphalt ones in. But we have needs throughout the whole district, which is very large. And a lot of people that live in the community are not familiar with the whole district. They're usually more familiar with the area that they live and they drive. And I meet people that have never, ever been west of Seminole Pratt, right? So they think that it's different or the same, I don't know. But we have issues throughout the whole district and we can't afford to do those asphalt ones throughout the whole district. So that's why we started looking at how can we do this a little cheaper in the interim. We can relocate those other ones. They're reusable, they're recyclable. And as we have the funds, then we can replace those if they were effective. But we also have data before and after. So to measure that, right? And certain ones like 140th, we did a study to look at whether it was effective or not. So I think it's important to understand that we've been having these discussions for the past 8 years that I've been on the board. And these discussions started way before I got on the board. And we finally were able to get some solutions and to work towards it. It's not perfect, but you know, it wouldn't be perfect, even if we had all the money to do everything we wanted to do, because somebody's gonna be upset about it, you know, so it's weighing.
No, we understand, and we know that, you know, the goal is not to slow fire rescue or slow the sheriff's office. It's to, you know, slow down the traffic.
won't
and the
need you as
traffic
much.
violators and the people that continuously are not abiding by the traffic laws. And I understand you're in a position, you're trying to do what's best to make the community safer and try to slow people down. And so, you know, I appreciate you taking into consideration and looking at the speed cushions versus the Seminole versus the whatever, you know, multiple different kinds. But regardless of whatever it is, they still will need to slow down when approaching it. So it will add a slight,
Even if it's a
a little
Seminole.
bit of time, even if it's Seminole.
Yeah.
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 It just, that's less of a, because it's more of a, you know,
Gradual.
correct. Yeah.
Right.
So
Likewise, people
really-
don't have to slow down as much.
Well, right, like the ones on Orange
Well,
out west.
it sounds like PBSO did a pretty good job. What was that on the 14th? You said you did that? Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple more of those and
Right.
people it might send a message and they might
That's
start
what
to
we
slow
need.
down. Yep.
Yep, that's what we need. Thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like your response time report
Yes,
from
please.
December? Okay. So for December 1st through December 31st, there was a total of 280 calls to the district. The average dispatch handling time was 44 seconds. The average turnout time was 47 seconds. The average travel time was 6 minutes and 53 seconds for a total overall average response time of 8 minutes and 24 seconds. And just about 78% of those were medical calls. And we did have 21 vehicle accidents last month.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Michael? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Being that we are at 7:35, I think we need to do public comment.
We have 11.
We have 11 cards. So we're gonna give everybody 3 minutes, but obviously with so many people, if you don't need all 3 minutes to get your message to us, thank you, Commissioner. You too. Obviously, you know, if you could keep it brief, we appreciate it. And, again, this is not for back and forth. This is just for everyone to address their concerns that they have that are not on the agenda tonight. Yeah. Let me add, Mary,
Yes.
we have 2 cards that don't wish to speak, but they have enormous comments on the back. Do we just receive and file them, or do they need to be read for the record? What's proper?
Read for the record,
you can do Okay.
that.
Okay, so let's do that.
will
Yeah.
with less than the 3 minutes.
Right.
Okay, Allison Pagari? Do you want this read in now or?
Just filed. Just filed? Okay, thank you.
All right, and then, that was 2, so both comments can be filed? Okay, perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good.
Mhm.
Can you please send it to all the board?
Bob Morgan, Lisa Johnson, and then Leo Dune.
Good evening, everyone. Bob Morgan, Acreage Landowners Association, 13784 67th Street North. First, unfortunately, I was confused on why there was no discussion about ULDC.
The video wouldn't work.
Okay. That was one of my main reasons to be here.
Sorry about
I
that.
love this-
They spent an hour, but it just wasn't
Okay.
happening, so.
Will it be available? Well, I guess it's gonna be on their website.
It probably already is.
Okay, awesome. Number 2, it just happened top of my head or something, actually Leo brought it to me. The building size for our meetings here for ITID. Is there any kind of consideration of possibly getting it built bigger, built out, library, because it's gonna, with all these issues coming up, it's just gonna start getting packed.
How much are you willing to pay?
Okay, got my answer. Is Miriam on the?
No, not tonight. I
Not today?
don't
Okay, I'll
believe.
get with her. I want to find out about my insurance.
Okay.
And also last night during our meeting with the ALA, I had a request from John Rivera. And he's asking if the ALA would put on a benefit barrel race for a gentleman here that's had 3 different brain tumors removed, and we want to try to see what we can do.
just
to
get with
eventually
Kenny.
Give you a
Yeah.
heads up, to see what we can do.
Absolutely.
I've already
Good
put out
question.
information for the equestrian, the extra equestrian insurance, so I'm waiting to hear back on that. What kind of a time frame would we have to have on that? Would it be 2 months or?
I think they want to do it within the next 6 weeks when it.
Want to try to get before it
I don't-
pops.
That shouldn't be a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're under the SPA with the ALA, so we could approve that in-house quickly. So as
Beautiful.
long as we have the insurance, we could get this done in a week.
Awesome,
So it won't have to come back to us.
No.
Perfect.
awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa Johnson.
Hi, I'm Lisa Johnson. I have a question. I did put in a comment card for 6.2, but I wasn't called, so I'll go do that one first. I just wanted to say Sarah Baxter did leave, but you know, when Westlake was developed, it was kind of said that they're going to develop this community where people were going to stay in, so the traffic wasn't going to go out. And the way that they're building with the big box stores and stuff, and then we didn't even talk about today, Okeechobee coming from SR 80 and coming through, having that 60th one lane in each direction. I think there's going to be a lot more traffic if you take those 2 things into consideration. I just wanted to mention that. So the next thing that I wanted to ask about, am I going to be called the other part that or should I just
10.1
say
I
Dr.
have for you here. That'll be on that subject. But
I can
for
wait on that one.
For 6.2, we weren't doing. public
Oh, okay,
comment.
gotcha. So the only other thing I wanted to say is, for community, communications. I've sent emails, I've asked questions, I don't hear back from anyone. So I do want to be informed. I do want to be able to ask. I know this is a one way. Is there any way we can do 2 ways? Maybe not at a meeting. I know it took a lot of time, but can we schedule community workshops? I just wanted to.
I don't see why not. And I know we're not doing back and forth, but I do want to address that. Because you did send the email. Some of the items, some of the questions that come up are not there yet. The answers aren't there yet. And we don't have those answers, so we can't speculate those answers. But yeah, we can definitely look into something like that.
Even if there was an answer to
We
say
are-
we're not
so-
there yet, and when
so-
we do get those
Right,
answers,
so
we'll.
a lot of this is gonna come up, we're doing the strategic planning, and hopefully sooner than later, it's gonna get started. And within that, there's gonna be a lot of community involvement and workshops where we're gonna address all these issues that we're up against.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Leo Dune.
Leo Dune, 42nd Mango. I want to thank you for saving my life probably 20 years ago. Too many Big Macs, had a heart attack. I'm also kind of glad to say that they're almost finished milling 42nd Road North, which has been going on for close to a year. But I want to find out why they milled Mango Boulevard from 42nd to the boat ramp at A Canal. And why they widened the boat ramp at A Canal so that boat and trailer could pull past the, I guess you call it gate. I think actually the boat ramp should have been at the end of 42nd instead of being at the end of 100 and, excuse me, 1.75 mile road, which is Mango. There's a lot of mailboxes along 42nd, which are now not to the post office regulations. It's down here because they've raised the road so much. Why wasn't drainage done on 42nd from Royal Palm Beach Boulevard to Mango when drainage, culverts, driveways were all done from Mango to the Aiken? just stuff that you're doing here nowadays. Excuse me, I have to swallow that word.
Thank you.
Doesn't make sense too much. Can we restrict access from, when I say we, I mean my neighbor lives on the other side of Mango. Can we restrict access to public driving down that one lot section? No?
I don't believe so.
Why was no one even notified prior to them paving it? Either one of us was, it's just, yeah, when they were doing one section of 42nd, they end up storing their equipment there, they store some materials, and then all of a sudden it's, excuse me, when I say paving, I mean buildings. It seems really crazy because Mango Boulevard should be paved north of 42nd up to 60th, because of all the people that use it.
Thank you.
I do have one here that says they do not wish to speak, but it's they have a comment, so I want to know if you want us to read it aloud or just file. Ray Dela Frere. Ray.
He might-
Okay,
He might
All right.
not be here, so.
we'll make sure we give it to staff.
Yeah.
So next we have Lou Calantuni, Delane Dean, and Sharon Waite. Thank you. Delane Dean.
Hello, I live at 13565 Tangerine Boulevard.
Could you just say your name for the record, please, in case it wasn't heard?
Delana Dean.
Sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting to do this. I'm kind of forced to do it. I'm not very good at this.
You're fine.
Okay, sorry. All right, I live at 135 Tangerine Boulevard, which is located on the northwest corner of Tangerine and Avocado. Monday, I received a violation notice for my fence and vegetation per the survey for the R3 paving project. The fence and 2 trees are 6 inches in your right of way, according to the survey done for the project. I'm asking to be allowed to keep the fence and trees as they are since nothing has been moved or planted in 30+ years and have neither caused any issues. The fence was permitted in 1993, which I have. I have the permit, I knew I had the permit because prior to that, I was sued along with you guys for a fatal accident in 2000, shortly after Tangerine was originally paved. I think Tangerine was paved for the first time in the late 90s and nothing was ever said about the fence or trees then. The surveyors were unable to find the metal marker and had to the metal marker and had to determine my property lines by other property lines. Also, one of the trees that would have to be removed is located on the corner of Tangerine and Avocado, and it supplies shade to the crossing. I did bring the permit. And
Is that a photocopy for us?
That's original.
No.
the permits back then were kind of big.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And they are a little bit smaller. But that's basically it. Do you have any questions for me? Anything I need to supply?
I don't think so at this time.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
As I understand it from a conversation I had with, Executive Director Hanson, there's some issues along 140th, similar to this and Tangerine. I think we should give staff direction to do that. Take care of it, and if it can't be resolved, then bring it back to the board as one package, otherwise we're gonna have issues. So it's just better to give staff the ability to deal with
I
that.
agree, absolutely.
So can we just
Yep, so do we,
have a consensus that we're gonna have staff deal with all of it and bring it back to the board for ratification or whatever needs to be done?
Yeah, and during, actually, I was gonna bring this up during executive report with Mr. Robinson. So during the executive report, I'll give you a little bit more detail,
yes,
so we don't
that's
get
what,
caught.
yeah,
Right.
that's what I was waiting for, actually.
And we're sorry to
Bless
cause
you.
any stress.
Huh?
We're sorry to cause any stress. The 6 inches, you know.
Yeah, I took pictures too in case you want to see what it kind of looks like for the survey.
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to stick around, we're going to discuss it a little further later.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon Waite. Sharon Waite. Great.
She might have left.
We have William Jones, Willie Harp, and Sherry Kaplan. Do I have William Jones?
Get somebody.
My concern right now is.
Which-
I'm sorry, can you say your name?
William Jones,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Persimmon Boulevard. Sarah Baxter has not wanted to talk about where we're going with trucks on residential lots. And so I was wondering where we do stand with that. I went to 4 meetings last spring at the county. And now all of a sudden it's like it disappeared.
But there's litigation between the county and federal and everything else, so that's why it's not been talked about.
How long are
Because
they
there's
gonna build it?
litigation going on. I don't know how long it's gonna take. So
Okay.
that's not really something that we're ready to discuss their litigation.
All right.
Yeah, but as we have information we can discuss, once that's resolved, then of course we'll get back to that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Willie Harp. Willie Harp.
Going once.
Right, Sherry Kaplan.
She's here.
After Sherry, we'll have Jorge Garcia and Irene Francisco.
Hi, Sherry Kaplan. I live on 78th Place North, and this might be a little redundant, but I've been trying to get a petition to get our road repaired for like 3 years now. We just had it milled today, and every time they mill it without rain, it has huge potholes in it, and people are literally having to weave back and forth.
You mean graded?
They just graded today.
It's
but
dirt
not-
though.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah.
They just graded today, this morning, and without rain, there are huge potholes. People weave back and forth on the road to get by. It kicks up the dust every time, and it's gotten to the point where it's impassable. I moved there 3 years ago. I knew there was a dirt road, of course, and I'm okay with that, but I can't like do the normal things that you do on a road. You can't even ride your bike out to where it's paved because it's so bumpy. And it's literally, my neighbor said he emails every day with photographs and updates on it, Michael. But we can't seem to get any resolve because the, grading of the road is not working. We'd asked for the petition to be milled for like 3 years now. We haven't ever made it in, but there's got to be some kind of resolve because you can't go down the road. I mean, literally, if you go over 5 miles an hour, your car is rattling. So I don't know what can be done or who else I could speak to, but I don't seem to be getting resolve on it. So.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially in the dry season. But if you don't mind, before you leave, if you will communicate, or you can leave your number with Scarlett.
Yeah, we have a number.
Okay, we have your number. Yeah.
You were here several months ago, weren't you?
I spoke after we did the
But
drawing.
Didn't we ask staff to look at it and put some material on that road? And did we do that or can we follow up?
Yeah, I'll
Because,
verify.
You know, you could get material on your road and, it's just as good or better than millings at this point, but you can't just bypass we have a policy on how we do the millings, so. But
Every time they grade it, it usually the rain would run it off, but now it's so bad and the holes are literally probably 8 inches deep and there's no way to even go around them right now. So they've really gotten out of control. And I don't think when they put more material, it is seeming to help because the holes are so big, it just kind of absorbs it. And so we've been trying to get it milled, but I don't know what other resolve we have as far as being able to navigate the road.
So you have gotten some material in the meantime, yeah.
They've done that
I
too.
know, I
yeah.
know. I have to
It's
say
like
this,
filling
but
like
it
filling
is.
a cave. Yeah. It's
we have
just,
policies.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, really, we can make sure that material gets on your road and staff can correct it, but we can't, if the end goal is that you're trying to get us to say that we're gonna do millings and jump the queue, there's, probably
vehicle for that.
300 streets before you.
no,
that
I
are in the
understand
same
that. I mean, it
situation.
just needs to get to where you can navigate it. And right now it's not
So
there.
you need
So
material.
maybe again, yeah.
So we'll reach out tomorrow, but I'll have Mr. Robinson, our chief construction officer, go there and look at it. If it needs
Okay.
a rebuild, then we'll put that into the list because we can build roads, so. we
Yeah.
just can't
Right,
augment
but
that.
in the
Right.
meantime, even on a rebuild list, if we can just get some material to fill in the holes.
Whenever he
Okay.
looks at it, but
Yeah.
it may need a complete rebuild.
Right.
And we'll see, because it could be on the rebuild list and we don't know that, but they would look at
Because
it.
they have put material before, but the holes are so deep that they're just, it doesn't seem to work. So maybe it needs to be done several times. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. We may need to do a complete rebuild, but we'll
Right.
get more material in there because there's a list for rebuilds as well.
Got it.
So-
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jorge Garcia? Jorge Garcia. Okay. Irene Francisco. Sorry if I'm demolishing your last name. I apologize.
Hi, my name is Irene Franciscono.
Thank you.
It's
Sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I was not
It's
gonna nail that
hard.
one at all.
It's hard. It's hard. I live on Tangerine Boulevard and just like my neighbor, I'm on 13786 Tangerine Boulevard. And I come today to, regarding the notice that I received on Monday too, regarding the, vegetation removal, for the driveway and swells that it's, in projects. Which, by the way, I just wanted to point out that I got into my mailbox today, this notice. So I don't know if this is regarding, R&D. That is them. Okay, so it just says that, just to remove any items of the driveway and whatnot. So, but we don't know yet when they're going to start the paving, I guess, and all the work there. So I come here to see if we might consider that all the front of my property has ficuses planted that they were there before we moved in, April 2012. And it's about, I would say about 200 feet. So we were talking to Rob the other day and, that there's an encroachment. I took pictures of it, considering the stakes, I guess you call it, the stakes that they were there. And of the 3 stakes, there's 2.5 to 4 inches that these ficuses are extending, I guess, or encroaching. So I took pictures and I have copies if you want me to give them to you. I mean, I do have 5 different palm trees there that extend over a foot, and I understand, I have no problem. I can take that out. Now, for me to take all those ficuses out, and to hire a company to remove them, it's gonna be a financial hardship for me. But if needed be, if that's what we need to do, we can do the work ourselves, but it will take some time. The deadline we got, is for February 9th. My husband is an over-the-road driver, truck driver, and he goes out like a couple of weeks, at a time. And, we can do the job ourselves, but it might take a little bit longer. So right now, receiving this note today, I don't even know if you have a date. I know that we're gonna talk about it, but it got
Mhm.
delayed of the process and all that with the timeframe. So, oh, is that me? I'm done.
Yeah, you're done, but
Okay.
stick around because we are gonna address this in a little while again.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
it for public.
Okay, that's it for public comments. Anybody need a short
Yes.
recess before we move on? I had a feeling.
Yes, because I think Ms. Viator and I would like to meet individually with you real quick during the break.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we'll take, what do we need? 15? 5 minutes? Okay. We'll say 10 minutes. So, yeah, that was Patty. All right, no later than 10 minutes after 8, okay?
Fair.
I- My mic's off. What happened? There we go. Hi, everybody. We're back. Okay, regular agenda item 7.1 to consider the amended and restated drainage service agreement with DR Horton, Inc., a successor in interest to the North Lake 20 LLC, two, partial release of easement, and 3, petition of DR Horton to initiate unit activation process for Vintage Oaks Planned Unit of Development 1594 and 11690 North Lake Boulevard, City of Palm Beach Gardens. And I'm going to now turn this over to Mr. Palin.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, before,
I'm sorry.
just quickly,
Yeah.
that the applicant is actually on Zoom,
Ah.
Mr. Matt Barnes, Darlene DePaula, Maria Bolivar, and Christopher Holmes. So, I don't know if you want to start with them or with our legal, so it's up to you.
Well, let's start with our legal, and then if we have any questions of the applicant, we can go from there.
I can give some background on how we got to where we are. I have discussed this with board members before this. This item has been pending for several months and was postponed from the December meeting so that the developer could address some pending development questions that need to be resolved in their in terms of their relationship with Palm Beach County.
Frank, I'm sorry, could you, just in case they can't hear you, thank you.
Apologize. This property is about 17 acres, which is on the south side of North Lake Boulevard. It's located about 1.7 miles west of the water catchment area and approximately 1.2 miles east of Coconut Boulevard, where Coconut intersects with North Lake. The Avenir project is across the street on the north of their project. On the west of their project is Bay Hill Estates, and on the east and on the south is Rustic Lakes. So they have this parcel. Now, in 2007, the former owner, which was North Lake 20 LLC, approached Indian Trail to obtain drainage services for their project, which at the time was proposed to be a commercial office or professional office complex in unincorporated Palm Beach County at that time. The problem that they had was getting drainage. North Lake Boulevard is essentially a barrier in terms of drainage basins. To the north and to the farther to the east, it's in northern Palm Beach County Improvement District boundary. They were unable to get drainage from northern and the former developers, and so they were basically required to come to Indian Trail. But at the time, this property was not within the legislative boundaries of the district. So the developers, North Lake 20, undertook the responsibility of getting this property, it was in northern, de-annexed from northern, annexed into Indian Trail, and they handled all of the costs of going to the Florida legislature and getting that change. Like I said, they were in northern's boundary at the time. Indian Trail stopped at basically their south boundary. And so they had to, because northern doesn't serve south of North Lake Boulevard for drainage purposes, they came to Indian Trail. And the agreement that was entered into with the board that in 2007 basically was a commitment to, at their expense, handle the legislative requirements of getting the property added to Indian Trail's boundary. And then they were required to go and they had to get a development order, which they did from Palm Beach County, and it was approved for development of an office complex on the property. And then once they got that, they were committed to form a unit of development. Now, the drainage solution that they came up with at the time was it's not contiguous to any Indian Trail facilities, neither roads or drainage canals, but property on the west, Bay Hill Estates does have a drainage agreement with Indian Trail. And they were required to obtain an agreement with the Bay Hill Property Owners Association to essentially drain into Bay Hill, and then from Bay Hill that they would drain into the M1 basis of Indian Trail. And the board at that time approved that relationship. Then this was in 2007, 2008, I believe in 2008, they got the legislative change, and they got their development order from Palm Beach County, but then the economy tanked and the project didn't go forward. Well, the ownership stayed the same, but they didn't develop the property as originally contemplated, and it's just been sitting there for the last 17 years until it was purchased from North Lake 20 by D.R. Horton Company, which is a residential builder. And this property, along with other properties along the south side of North Lake, relatively recently was incorporated into the city of Palm Beach Gardens. So they left unincorporated Palm Beach County. They're now in the city of Palm Beach Gardens. The city of Palm Beach Gardens has approved a development order for, I think, something like 111 single-family townhouses on the property. And they are attempting to go forward with a development on the site. However, the issue came up about, I think, what triggered the review, and if any of the important representatives online, you know, if I'm misstating it, please correct me on it. But one of the development order conditions that they have with the city of Palm Beach Gardens basically was, or a couple of them, were to accommodate Palm Beach County's development of North Lake Boulevard. So, and develop adjacent to the county redevelopment of North Lake Boulevard. So they were required to provide a turn lane eastbound into the project and convey that to Palm Beach County. It's a very small parcel, it's like 0.17 acres or something like that. And then Palm Beach County is, along with the city along with the city, are developing a meandering sort of pathway along the south side of North Lake Boulevard. It's going to be a parkway. And so the county it will remain the developer's property, but in a 30-foot wide strip along the northern boundary of their property, the county was requiring them to convey to them an easement for this pathway. At the same time, the county, who always insists on things be perfect from their perspective, in reviewing title apparently, discovered that the 2007 drainage agreement with Indian Trail had been recorded in the public record. So it essentially becomes an encumbrance on the property. So it's something that pops up on a title report. It's not technically an easement because it doesn't really give Indian Trail like use rights on the property. It just records the existence of this agreement. And we did it deliberately so that future property, purchase of this property or portions of this property would recognize that they were eventually going to be put into a unit of development and would have to pay the district's drainage assessments on the property. And so the county said, we want the area that our 30 feet, including our little turn lane parcel, are free and clear of any encumbrances to Indian Trail. So that basically reopened the 2007 agreement, which needed to have some, obviously, because of the great length of time that had gone on from 2007 up until 2024, 2025, there were some changes in concept and design that needed to be modified. Now, and Jay could address the drainage scheme that the Horton Company has come up with, but essentially it's the same concept of, because there's no direct connection to an Indian Trail facility, it has to be an indirect drainage connection. So they no longer have an option apparently of going through Bay Hill Estates, having an agreement with Bay Hill Estates. I do have a record that show you my longevity here, and I was here in 2007 when this was drafted. I have a record that they did the former owner did have some kind of an agreement with Bay Hill, or at least the agreement principle to have a drainage connection through their property, but that obviously had lapsed after all this length of time. So the option apparently was to still indirect, but to connect their overflow drainage. There will be on-site retention on the property, and Jay can talk about the technical issues of that, but the overflow drainage that couldn't be accommodated on site would go into the drainage system that the county is constructing for North Lake Boulevard. And then there's in the backup, you'll see a sketch that shows it, it runs down to the west, down through the county drainage system, and then into the same drainage outfall that the county is using into the Indian Trail system. So lots of parties get involved. So, that's the drainage scheme that a substitute drainage scheme that required some of the changes in the terms of the development agreement that we had back in 2007. Now, some of the other key points, and the folks at Fort may want to emphasize other aspects of this, but there's a red line version of the revised agreement. That's the last exhibit in the packet for this item that you'll see. And you can see that there's I substantially revised the recitals, the whereas clauses, so to kind of explain the history of how this project has evolved over time in terms of our relationship with the developer. There is, because in response to the county's request to release their property from an encumbrance of Indian Trail, there's a partial release of the agreement that is on your agenda tonight, as in addition to approving the revised drainage agreement. Now, we're not revoking the drainage agreement, we're modifying the terms of it. So it's an amended and restated drainage agreement. So many of the terms that were in the 2007 agreement that are still valid are going to remain in force. And only those items that, because of some of these changes that we've had in the nature of the drainage system, for example, and the way the project is going to be developed, needed to be revised. And those have been modified, and those are highlighted in our red line version. The original developer did partially satisfy the requirements of the 2007 agreement. What they didn't do was proceed to form an active unit of development. And that is also on your agenda tonight. So at least to direct the staff to, and the district engineer to begin we come back, say, perhaps next month with the next step in the formation. Now that the Horton Company has provided the $15,000 deposit that we would typically be required for forming a unit of development. And in addition, the Horton Company has tendered $15,316 for reimbursement of the expenses that the professionals have incurred in processing this current petition. So a check is either here or is on its way for $30,316 for those. Now, when they are, and this is one of the terms of the original agreement, the developer has to make a non-refundable drainage connection fee payment, which is based on a formula that is part of our policy, the district policy. That will be in the amount of $98,766. So, but it's not due until the permit is going to be issued. So they'll be submitting all of the backup information that's necessary to obtain a drainage permit. And when it's approved and the system is verified by the district engineer, then they'll be also required to submit a $98,000, an additional $98,000. So in addition to the $30,316, it'll be another $98,766 that will be coming from the developer. Now, the original agreement also had attached to it certain permit conditions. Excuse me, a lot of talking here. And the permit that was attached to it was not a complete permit. It was a series of conditions that are going to be placed in the permit when it's officially issued. There will be additional terms in the permit, but the conditions that are continuing is that there'll be a read my handwriting here. The property surface water management permit will be modified to include an increase in the Indian Trails allowable drainage discharge. Maybe Jay could perhaps explain it better than I can, but there will be a request made to South Florida Water Management District for the amount of drainage that they're going to be discharging outside the property. They will petition an Indian Trail along with Indian Trail, a request to South Florida to increase Indian Trail's overall permitted outflow. Is that correct, Jay? I hope.
Yes.
So
Something
in
like
layman's
that.
terms, so we're gonna get rid of their water so we don't flood everybody.
Well,
with excess
they'll
water.
compensate for the
Right.
additional drainage that they will put into the Indian Trail system to the M1 basin. And then they will also apply for there will be a full review of the impacts based on the development of the water control plan, the report of engineer. Now, the property owners in this development will pay drainage assessments. They're not making any other demands on district services, so if that would be it'll be limited to a drainage assessment, not any other services. They're not affecting the roads directly, and they're not affecting parks. I mean, they're in the city of Palm Beach Gardens.
Right.
They have their own on-site recreation facilities, so it's not likely, and they're quite a distance away from any of the Indian Trail recreation facilities, so it's not likely to. They're probably going to, I'm sure, take much more advantage of city of Palm Beach Gardens because they're going to be paying city taxes to maintain their recreation system there. So with that, I don't know if there's anything that any of the Horton representatives would like to add. Now's a chance.
No, thanks, Frank. This is Matthew Barnes at WGI. I'm the project manager for the project. Frank, you did a great job verbally explaining it, and your 5-page written executive summary explained it very well as well. So I won't belabor anything else. Just summarize it. Yeah, essentially we're here to activate, with ITID, and also to get the release of the turn lane that we have to dedicate to the county and the sidewalk easement area.
Thank you, Matt. Anybody have any questions?
I do. Of course. The South Florida Water Management Permit, let's start there. In my read of the agreement, there's no date certain or obligation, and what if they don't? And what if we are not approved for additional drainage? So that was the first question. This might be Jay.
Yeah, I think it's a question for Jay.
Well, the legal part is that there's no time certain in the agreement, and I think that it just says that they have to do it. It doesn't say when they have to do it. So I think we need to,
We're initiating the activation process, which requires a water control plan and the engineer's report. At the same time, they will be processing the special permit. We can't issue the special permit until the water control plan process is complete. The special permit is what allows them to do what they're asking. So no matter what happens if they don't meet the conditions, they can't go forward. So they will be required to meet the conditions of the agreement, plus the other conditions, as Frank mentioned, that would be in the special permit. You had asked, or the board had asked about the in and out. Essentially, whatever comes in at the rate it comes in has to be allowed to go out. South Florida has issued that permit to DR Horton. I have had conversations with Jess Markle, who heads up the permitting section. We're working on that very issue, and DR Horton has agreed to pursue it to the extent commercially available, I think is the way it was put. They can't force water management to do it, but if we don't get the amount of water out then that's coming in, we would have to change the condition to restrict them to not have any discharge until we could accept it, not a in and out. And the other question related to that is volumetric. I had relayed to the board before that there will be more volume coming through. However, when I did look at it as requested, since they're at the very end of the bus, so to speak, they're the last people out, and we have equal compensating storage, they will be the last one to drain. So in fact, it actually, if we get the additional discharge, it actually helps our system because we get to discharge our system before they drain. So that's actually a positive for us, but I don't want to overemphasize that because at 1 or 2 CFS, whatever it ends up being, it is minuscule relative to our needs of 1,100 cubic feet per second, but it's a positive rather than a negative. I'm trying to think if I've covered everything. Oh, the county permit, they have not issued the permit to tie into their system yet. They are making it conditioned upon their standard conditions, which I don't want to get into too much technical detail, but essentially all that's coming into us is a bleeder slot, a 6 by 6 inch bleeder slot. So it's not a whole lot of water, rate of water. So again, we're working on the engineering conditions, but everything I see says that it will not have a negative effect on the M1 basin.
so the condition regarding the South Florida water, you said that there's certain things they can't do until they have a special permit. So where does it go, and what does it go in the special permit about the South Florida water management discharge permit, or where is it going? And if it doesn't happen, what is the remedy if we don't have it? Because I know, we're looking at it right now and we think, and I trust you, Jay, because nobody knows water out here like you do. I get that. Okay. But, our 100-year storms are happening every 10 years and some more frequently than that. So, we could be in a situation where every little bit of drainage helps. So what if we don't get it? And where is that condition that says that we can, that they can't move forward? What does that actually do? Where? Because I didn't see anything in this agreement relating to that would say you can't do anything more until this happens. And if we don't get this drainage, then we're not obligated. And that's the other thing. I don't want us to be obligated and not have a solution. So
The agreement is an agreement to accept the drainage. We're the quote utility, but provider, but that does not mean they can go forward without meeting the conditions of the water control plan and the special permit. They can't physically make the connection and discharge to us till they get that permit.
okay. So it's going to be, what you're saying is it's going to be in the special permit and it's going to be in the water control plan.
It's
Yeah.
just gonna go
Okay.
through that entire water control.
Okay,
plan
and the
include
county permit and their drainage, is it Coconut Lake still, or is it a different location?
That's correct. It goes down North Lake and ties in the
To
Coconut Lake.
And as I recall from our last discussion, the Coconut Lake doesn't have an actual, it runs by gravity. So if we're taking additional water from North Lake into Coconut Lake, how are we getting water out to prepare for a storm like we do with every other structure we have? Every other lake, every other canal, we have the ability to draw water down, but Coconut Lake is just gonna be.
Oh, Coconut Lake, I did check into that too. I didn't mention it. It does have an outfall that goes down Coconut to the nearest canal, east-west
Oh, it
canal to the
does.
south. It does.
Okay, can we
Yes.
pump then? Is there?
No,
the ability-
it's all done by gravity. We don't have a pump that goes south. We could pump and go to the M1 impoundment to the north west, but that could potentially use up some of the storage we want later. We want to drain things as much as we can.
Okay. And then the other question that I had relates to, I want to ensure that the fees, the drainage connection fee, and the funds that are coming in are going into the M1 Basin Fund and not being used elsewhere, because it is the M1 Basin. And so I just want to make sure that that happens.
Through the chair, yeah, there's no other place to put them. It has to go into the M1 basin.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any other questions? Patty? Michael?
So basically, what we're talking about right now tonight, this is just the first step of a process before we get to that South Florida water management and all that.
Yes, this is the first step to have the agreement to start the process that we did go a little bit through the process before, but now we need to finish it, activate. First step is the agreement, second step is activation. Third step is usually a special permit. I'm sure the applicant wants to process the special permit at the same time, but you can't issue a special permit until it's activated.
Through the chair. I would feel more comfortable if we amended the agreement and with respect to the South Florida water management permit, that we actually specify something in there that it's pursuant to the special permit or the water control plan or both or whatever. I think we need to, if we're signing an amendment to an agreement that we could otherwise terminate, in my opinion, because they didn't follow through with what they were supposed to do 20 years ago, whatever it was, 2007, almost 20 years. So it needs to be a date certain. And the other thing is that I know they're building there right now. They're already digging. It's not like this is going to go on for another 20 years, but I think we need to have that comfort. And
So we can include that in the agreement, right? The problem with just, that's gonna be
of course,
subject to complying with that South Florida permit, that's gonna be applied.
The Horton Company is represented by their legal counsel. I think she needs to take up.
I'm sorry.
I think their legal counsel at least needs to be consulted on terms of what they.
Well, this is really about protecting Indian Trails incident or
Well, I understand in terms of language,
interests.
that's all.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry, this is Matt again. So Frank, does Article 5D already protect the district? Because it says that, we can't install the connection until Indian Trail has approved and issued the permit, which doesn't come right out and say the South Florida thing, but I mean, you have control over, we can't install anything until we get the permit. So I think I just wanted to point that out if Article 5D doesn't already protect, as board member Argue has asked for, if that's already sort of sufficient enough.
5D it says the connection should not be installed until the district has approved and issued the permit authorizing such connection to district water management system. Number 2, that the landowner has paid all fees and charges due in full. And 3, all other required governmental approvals and permits have been issued for the connection, and copies of same provided by the
Right.
district. The landowner shall, the modification that was added by the developer's representative is that the landowner shall use commercially reasonable efforts to obtain an amendment by Palm Beach County of its district drainage permit. So that refers to the county drainage, not the South Florida.
There's a specific spot in here, and I'm sorry, I don't have the red line copy here, but, in my notes, but there's a specific reference in the agreement to the South Florida Water Management.
Yes, it's in the permit. It's an exhibit.
It's an exhibit.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of exhibits here. Exhibit D to the agreement, and I don't have the page number in your packet.
What's the bottom?
I think you were on it, Scarlett. Or Burgess.
It's
We're
H2.
just working it.
42.
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
Scarlett is gonna call it up.
Okay, it says special conditions of permit approval. So,
Yes, it's in the permit. That's where that originally, in the original agreement, that's where this reference to the
Okay.
link to South Florida permit was put.
so is it clear in the agreement that Exhibit D is I just want to make.
Those are the
it
permit
very
conditions,
clear
yes.
Which permit we're talking about.
Yeah, that refers back to reference in the text of the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It refers to Exhibit D to the special permit conditions.
Okay, the Indian Trail special permit.
Yes,
Okay,
Indian Trail's future
Yeah, I
special
think
permit.
we're-
condition.
yeah.
And you're comfortable with this, right, Frank, Mary?
Yes.
The way it is, and
Look at it, you can approve it subject to clarification or confirmation.
very good, thank you. I appreciate that.
I have a question.
Oh,
So, adding on to what Supervisor Argy was talking about, these 100-year storms, and we all remember Isaac. And I spent a lot of time in waist deep water out here, adding this additional drainage to the district, in the event of another storm like that. And I know it was a very complicated issue getting water out of here. What kind of, effects adding additional water like that would it burdensome the drainage? I'm sorry, burdensome the district with?
Yes, that's the specific, we have modified the surface water management policy since 2007. And the new policy says you must have equal compensating storage, which means whatever is stored on the lot now undeveloped, both surface and groundwater, you have to retain that same amount of water on your site. Otherwise, you can't get a permit. So the theory is the water rises equally in a new area and the existing area. And as the existing area comes down, this being at the end of the bus can then come down. So volumetrically, you should not change the stage of flooding at all. And as I explained earlier, because they're at the back of the plane or whatever, they would actually drain last. So, and we would get a little bit more drainage out. So it actually is beneficial to the duration. Stage stays the same and duration is a small benefit. So our newly adopted surface water management policy covers that very issue.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to.
So just before we-
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
I
see you.
think I want to consult with Jay for a moment.
Yeah, yeah, that might work.
Scarlett's gonna, I
Yeah,
have Scarlett
like
to
the
call
way
up that
I know.
condition
Yeah, I've looked into.
in the,
42.
this is in the red line version of it, so you can see what was there before.
I'm sorry, what?
Scarlett's gonna put it on screen. The condition the condition in the permit that's in Exhibit D to the agreement, which is special conditions of permit approval. That's Exhibit D. D2 is the condition that refers to modifying, let's see here.
Commercially reasonable, that's what you were talking about.
No, I'm sorry, D3.
What is commercially reasonable?
Hold on, I'm gonna talk to Jay to see think I'll help get some language in here that would reflect what, Supervisor argued. Indicating more. This reminds me of my county commission days. It's marketplace.
I believe Mr. Barnes wants to speak. real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
Mr.
I
Oh,
really, I mean, it's fine if we want to tweak the language. It does seem to me that Exhibit D as written, I'm looking at the clean version that's in your packet. Number 4 says landowners shall pay all costs associated with the alteration of the district's, South Florida Water Management District ERP to allow for an increase in discharge into the ITID system equal to the discharge from the property. So, that combined with Article 5D and everything, it seems like ITID is protected. But we'll listen to see if Frank and Jay have something to add to it.
thank you.
I guess my concern is, and my next question would be, and Matthew, maybe while we're waiting, if we don't get the drainage from South Florida Water Management, and the district is obligated to continue to give you drainage, what do we do then? There's no benefit to us receiving water, additional water. We already know we don't have enough drainage as it is. So what would your plan be to go next?
But then we couldn't issue the permit.
But
Ye-
he's in the middle of building right now.
Right,
So,
right.
and we're activating them as a unit.
Right.
So, and the whole reason why we're doing this is because we have an agreement already and, they're within the boundaries of the district.
Mhm.
I just want to know where we go with that.
We haven't proposed it for this project, but in the project on the south side of Orange at Seminole Pratt, we had in there a condition where we could shut it was an operable structure, we could shut it. So the solution of that would be, we would ask them to put a structure in that we would operate, and we could shut them off and have zero discharge until we say we want to open that structure.
Well,
So-
to that point, that was in the original agreement, but it was redlined out. So was there discussions about why we were taking that out? Or is it because we didn't think it was necessary because it's not a big hill? I don't know.
We've changed policy since then, and if we get the discharge out and the new policy with surface water management, equal compensating storage, it's moot. But if we can't get that discharge out, we might want to reinstitute that same condition.
And we can do that in the water control plan?
What should be
And, or in a
the-
special permit. I mean, not all the details of the special permit are included in the agreement. The agreement says we are your service provider and we'll work out all the special conditions to get that to work. This isn't the.
That was the intent, the original intent was that. This was
Right.
not, these were not intended to be the final conditions of a permit. There were certain conditions that, after you go through the process of creating a water control plan, a report of engineer and all that, the permit would have at least some of the conditions that were stated in here at the time. But there would be additional conditions. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the conditions had to be identical to what's in here. This whole project was taken in 2007 at a very conceptual stage. So it was not meant to be permanent. But after my consultation with Jay, I want to separate now there in terms of whose permit is being affected, because we've got so many parties involved, all with their separate permits. The condition that dealt with in the permit that dealt with the South Florida is condition number D1 on this agreement. And Jay concluded that the condition as stated is sufficient, that it addresses what Supervisor Argue has raised. And the condition number 2 deals with modification of the county permit with Indian Trail. So you've got big agency that regulates everybody with the South Florida Water Management District. And then we've got a permit, since they're going through county system, and the county has a permit with the district that And if they want to use the county permit, then the county has to come to Indian Trail. Not only getting it, is important getting a permit from us, from Indian Trail. The county condition with Indian Trail has to be modified to accommodate what they want to do.
Let me add, we had a conference call Friday that Frank wasn't a part of, and I'm sorry I didn't keep you up to date on that one, but the county thinks that that they can add a condition to their permit that says they have to have our permit in order to connect. So it wasn't, that way it gets the county out of the middle. It means the applicant has to contact us directly, but the county won't issue the permit unless they get ours. So it eliminates the requirement of an extra coordination. It puts the communication directly between
Which is
us and
better,
them.
in my opinion.
I don't want to belabor the point, but I think we are missing something. What my concern is that we have an agreement that technically right now the board could consider terminating. And we're modifying it because they are within our boundaries and because, you know, it's, anyway, so fine. But we're also saying that there's not a problem here because we're going to have a self-water water management permit increase potentially. And it's going to have, you know, a minor impact on our system. But once we are entering into this modification, we are obligated. There is nothing in this agreement that says that if we don't have that self-sort of water management increase in our permit, that we don't have these obligations under the agreement. And that's really where I'm going with it. And that's why I also felt that there should be a time certain on when we're dealing with this self-sort of water management permit. So I think you guys can deal with that and modify that. Like I said, I don't want to belabor it, but I think these are important points.
Just to, I guess, also to follow up on our comments, in article number 5, condition 5D, it states that the district is that no connection will be installed until the district has approved and issued its permit for connection to the district water management system. So no matter what, if they don't get some kind of modification to the South Florida permit that accommodates this drainage, they're not going to get a district permit issued to them.
So we have an active unit for drainage that we're not obligated to do anything further then? Or,
Well,
okay,
but then this property is within the legislative boundaries of the district. They are a property owner to which we are obligated to provide drainage if they satisfy our drainage requirements, all of them. If they satisfy our conditions, then they get drainage. So they will simply, even if you terminated this, they're just going to come back again. And do we go through
Frank,
the
I'm not
same process at
suggesting-
all?
I want to know what happens if the conditions are not satisfied. I want to make sure that we're not obligated to give drainage that we do not have, period. We have no drainage.
And I think this paragraph does, but you can go ahead and approve it tonight.
Subject
with-
to-
with that condition
yeah.
and review, and that can be easily done.
All right.
Question through the chair. Let me see if I can explain this appropriately or ask the question appropriately. Let's just say, as Supervisor are you saying, and we have an issue down the road with this, how far in the construction phase would this project be when all of a sudden we got to go, you're not meeting the district's drainage requirements? Where would they, do we have any idea where they would be in a construction phase if something like that were to pop up?
That would, if I may, that would, in my opinion, be up to DR Horton. They would essentially be proceeding at risk. And if they didn't get the permit to connect, whatever they have done, they would have to come up with a modification to that. One modification could be the control structure. And as Frank said, we would still be obligated to serve them for drainage if they meet all the conditions. So they could have the whole thing built and not be able to connect. And that's certainly not our intent to have that happen, but you're asking what could happen? That could happen.
But that could be the protection for the district, that it specifically says the connection shall not be installed until they meet those conditions. So that is where your protection is. And it's on page 26 of your backup right there.
Okay.
I'm good if we
And-
can make the motion subject to legal and
For
engineering.
clarification with regards to your
Reviewing
comment.
clarification, yeah.
Is that all right, Betty?
Well, I think that Patty was gonna make the
Okay.
motion, so I
Yeah,
just.
so I'm
wanna,
just adding it,
Oh.
engineering, legal and engineering.
Review
Modifi-
and modifications
review and
pursuant to
modification.
board discussion.
Application pursuant to discussion, okay. So,
And another question, through the chair, please. The control structure, that's not in the plans right now, but that's something that could be added later.
Through the chair, they do have a control structure. It is currently not operable, and we are discussing, we being Palm Beach County and Indian Trail are discussing that with the applicant's engineer as to the configuration. So we know what was proposed. That doesn't meet the current criteria. But if they make the structure without the operable part, it has to be accompanied with the water management outfall. If they don't get that, then we would have to modify that structure.
So those improvements or modifications, who pays for those?
That's them.
That would be that.
We don't issue the permit until they have it
Thank you.
designed to the satisfaction of Indian Trail.
Thank you.
Well,
I was curious about that because it actually was in the original agreement, right? That structure, and it's crossed out. So that's kind of raised a red flag for me. Why are we doing this? And I understand we're changing how it's being done, and it may change again depending on certain circumstances, but I want to make sure we're just not in a position where we're obligated to give something we don't have to give. So.
okay, motion to approve amended and restated drainage service agreement with DR Horton Inc. as successor in interest to North Lake 20 LLC and partial release of easement, including disposition of an interest in surplus real property. And we're adding subject to legal and engineering review and modification pursuant to the discussion.
Wait a second.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any public comment cards?
Not on this.
Nothing? All right, let's call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
I see that it passes 5-0. Now we need give board direction, to direct staff to initiate unit activation process for Vintage Oaks Plan Unit of Development 11594 and 11690. And I noticed that above, we were missing a digit if you look at 7-1, Mary, the address.
154.
Yeah.
Should be 1-1.
Yeah, and 11690 North Lake Boulevard, City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, based on the landowner's petition. So, I'd like to give staff that direction right now. Thank you. Okay,
And then what that means is that the next board meeting will bring that first resolution that
Right.
has to define the geographical boundaries of that unit.
yes, I remember the process.
I'm just curious. I mean, we knew we were doing that. Why didn't we do that at this meeting?
We wanted to make sure everything was all organized and approved.
All right.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you.
And whoever else is out there, with your firm and, the representatives. So we look forward to working with you, and hopefully you guys will fight hard for that South Florida Water Management Permit ASAP.
We most definitely will. It's in our best interest. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
And more if
and
you can,
ours.
Matthew.
Yeah, Just a little more out, that would be great.
Another 10 inches a day.
All the emergencies. Thank you very much. Have a
Thanks.
wonderful evening.
Good night.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Right.
Bye. Good night. Okay, other governmental updates. Mr. Foy, are you ready? Do you have any?
I don't, all the DRO applications that have come in the last month, and Danny can correct me if I'm wrong, but all of those have been outside of our district, we did have to verify for Rawlings and one other that was the other one that we had already made our comments part of the record. So there were no new comments.
Yeah, Temple, isn't that one moving forward? No new comments on that, but.
There were no new comments. We were asked to review the plat for it was on 61st and Seminole Pratt Whitney Road, but plat review, we don't really have comments for that, so. I don't think there was anything new that came in, but I think I gave you a pretty good rundown last meeting of status. If you had any questions on any of those, we certainly could. I don't know if Bert had any other governmental updates he wanted to have.
What is the, plat on Seminole Pratt and 61st?
It's a church, it begins with an
Is that
M.
the mosque?
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's no, so that's well.
all the plat was a boundary plat showing easements. There was nothing to comment on. It just reiterated what the easements were. Well, I guess they did add a landscape easement or something, but that has not on site, which has nothing to do with us. It did depict our easement for the canal to the north side. So there was really nothing to comment on.
Then just quickly, because after we spoke about the property between Avocado and 140th, I went back in and I just confirmed with Jay, it's actually a pool and they identify it as a day bed, but it's really, looking at it, it's supposed to be a cabana. So that's their
That's the
actual
pool.
clubhouse and.
That's
and
on,
then
so the
there's a
tables, and
pavilion.
chairs and.
Yes.
Got it, okay.
So
Very good.
that's what that was.
Very good.
I believe it's somewhat, over 300 units, 18 residential buildings and 2 commercial buildings on there. So.
North, I can support that.
Yes.
Absolutely,
They can do it.
absolutely.
Think so.
And then, did, receive a call from a board member and I verified that right now Palm Beach Gardens does not have any active applications, nor are they anticipating any, but for voluntary or involuntary annexation. However, again, the planning and zoning director there has been very upfront. She will notify, it'll probably be Jay because they're the two that connect. If there are any that are submitted, and then same way with any changes to site plans or anything along the
Excellent.
19 unit.
And I appreciate that, they're keeping us up to date on that.
And then I believe Jay just mentioned, but Mr. Barnes had sent a comment or a message to me a few days ago that they do plan on for the March meeting to start that process again. And if you recall, Rawlings Estate is the one that's just a little north of the M2 of Palmet, west of 180th south. It's a quarter mile south of Sycamore, I think, or a half mile, something like that. So, but I don't have any information. We'll probably be, I'm sure he'll be contacting Jay or Mr. Foy or Mr. Palin, and then it might be a mile, yeah. Yeah, so, and then, just another, I told you earlier that, Mr. Foy and Mr. Robinson worked on the appropriation to put in the technical detail for it, so I did send that up to Tallahassee earlier, today. And then, one last thing, I consider it to be other governmental because it deals with Waxahachie Groves, but our gate continues to get hit on, or not hit, but vandalized on 140th and 40th for that canal easement pathway or lane. I think it was hit with twice now with a blowtorch where they've taken off the top of the cap and then cut the lock underneath it. So I have sent an email, I've not received a reply yet to the town of Waxahachie Groves town manager and engineer that I highly recommend that they put a gate or a barrier on within their jurisdiction. because this is getting ridiculous that we're going there almost every weekend. The one thing that we will be doing, Mr. Robinson was able to find a cement pole that FPL, I guess, abandoned for us. So we're going to put that up in a location and then put it in a camera that's going to be powered by solar to try to catch whoever, because clearly, we can't have somebody there 24/7. And they're mainly hitting it on weekends, or in the one case, I believe it was either Christmas Eve or Christmas night. So, but
Thank you.
yeah, and if there's anything else? That's all for me.
Very good. Okay, item 10. Facilities, Parks and Recreation, 10-1, approval of permit applications for the AAL spring season. Looking for a motion to approve the applications for the spring season. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna do public comment in a second.
Public comment, we already have public comment.
No,
Not
but
on
on
this
this
item.
item.
On this
Yeah,
item.
you have to wait
Yeah.
for the motions to be made.
Yeah, we do it differently than,
I have questions.
okay.
So this is for the football season, correct?
The flag co-ed.
Yeah, flag, co-ed, elite, all that stuff. So I was looking at these permits and I'm confused by some of the dates on here and things like that. It's not very specific at all about how long the season is. Some of these with the dates I see on here, basically like co-ed flag is from 6 to 9:15. But then it talks about adult flag would run in the afternoon after co-ed, but if co-ed is from 6 to 9:15, how would the adult flag run in the afternoon afterwards? There's just some confusing things in here that I think before we approve this, we need to look at to make sure we have a starting season and ending season and make sure everything's squared so we don't have any issues. We want football to go, but this is very vague with a lot of the details here, and hopefully we can fix this hopefully real quick. Mr. Lawrence, is that something we can do?
Yes, so through the chair. The current system we have is just a basic application that gives us basic information. Unfortunately, it's not very detailed. Some of the bigger municipalities actually have really detailed systems that can go into detail to a point where it even blocks out online, so you can see what you're renting, what you're not. Our system doesn't allow that. So that's why we put in subject to staff and legal review. Once this is approved as an application, we'll then create the actual permit, get with the league, get the detailed information. And as long as we have all that, then it gets finalized at that point moving forward. So up on the screen is a little more detailed information that you guys see here. As everybody knows, obviously in sports, until evaluations are complete and the teams are actually built, you really don't know what your actual schedule is going to be. I know that the old service provider agreement basically had where you had to have it 30 days in advance. I think that's something we may have to look at as far as giving a little leeway in that so that they can create their season and actually build it that way. And then we'd have to work with staff at that point. But that's how the system is currently working.
Through the chair, and I think right now, like, that doesn't cover any, like, the grand opening or the, what is it you call it, the, oh my God,
Super Bowl?
I'm tired, Super Bowl, that, like, those dates are not on here, but it's always part of their season. right?
Correct.
And some of it gets pushed because of weather.
Correct.
So-
And we work with them with that.
Right.
One of the concerns that I've seen with this application process here, and we'll have to get with them to see how their season is going to roll out. It seems like, I believe it was co-ed. One of them may run a little bit late in the spring, which could affect the downtime during that period, as far as like between spring and fall, those seasons for our rest periods. So that's something we're going to have to monitor and be careful with at that point. But I don't see any issues with it. We've been working well with Wendy's, so.
Do we know a date that basically approximately the football seasons would end? if maybe Ms. Torado could answer that for us. To the chair.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Hello again.
Hi.
So our co-ed season normally would run, weeknights. The permit application is from 6 PM to 9:15. I think that's where the confusion lies. When we're asking just for a 15-minute extension to that permit because games finish at 9 PM. By the time the boards pick up and, everyone's out of the parking lot, that should take us to that time itself. So 9:15 should be adequate enough for everyone to be out. The co-ed season evaluations are going on now. Draft would be like next week or so. Practice schedule, I should get you that beginning of February by latest by then. And then a game schedule would come right after that. So the season normally runs, I believe it starts March 1st and would run all the way, I think, through the end of May. And we make it a point not to pass that date. So even if we have to get makeup games done, we try to allocate free days through that practice schedule that we would send Kenny. And we would try to fill in those spots so that way we don't have to surpass that date that we give him as to the Super Bowl date itself.
You're not certain what that date is yet,
I would have to know because of the game schedule, we don't have that yet.
but you start March 1st.
March 1st, it would be, yes.
Approximately how long do the seasons last?
It's a total of 10 games, so it would run, each team would have 10 games. So, I mean,
Good.
through Super Bowl, it would be through the end of.
2.5 months.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And
I
then,
just want to make sure that, that we're clear, that we have an idea of where we are. So
I guess
down the
what we can
road,
say.
we don't have any miscommunications because we want this to go as smoothly as possible.
correct. And then the Extreme League would only be Saturday afternoons after the youth games are done.
Gotcha.
It would not be during the weeknights.
Okay. And of course, we're gonna make sure that this goes as best as we can. I know you are too. So
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Lawrence, all that, we're good. Okay.
We don't have a second yet, but.
There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah, just give us 1 second because this email asks us to read it.
But that would be under public comment.
So we could just receive and file this?
Well, or you can receive and file, but you might want to, do we have a second? I didn't have a second.
I didn't hear a second yet.
So I think, no, I did not.
No.
I think Rich started to ask a question.
Right.
So we got interrupted.
Right.
Sorry.
Second.
You make the second, Michael.
Michael?
Okay.
All right, now public comment.
Yes.
Let's call up Lisa, she's in the audience, as a
Yeah,
comment,
you see.
and then we'll read this. It's part of this, so we might as well do it now.
Hi, this is Lisa Johnson. I did watch the Zoom meeting on Monday. I had some concerns on this agenda tonight. It does say for permit application, so the meeting on Monday, wasn't that to decide if there would be a service agreement?
We're gonna bring that back next month.
Okay.
This is just so they can have their season. We're ready to
Okay.
discuss this.
Because that's what I was gonna ask, if this seems, and I'll tell you why, but I think we need to have a service agreement, and that if this doesn't work, that we would consider bringing that back. I know that Wendy and the volunteers and another board member, she works for Wellington, is really experienced at this, and bringing this to our board, we're not our board, but our staff to handle it is going to take time, and it's going to cost us money. And it's also, I think, going to be litigious in liability with the background checks. I spoke to Wendy and a couple of the board members and asked them specifically, did you ever do a background check and have to deny somebody from working with the children? And the answer was yes. And for us being a foster parent for 10 years, I take what happens to kids very, very seriously, and opening us up not to do the background checks and doing permits it's a big mistake and it's opening up liability for the whole community and for the board. I know you guys are very much into your insurance and I think I don't know if you have spoken to your insurance person as you did for permits, but I think we really need to. And that's about all that I wanted to say. I did also, there's no recourse without having them as a board for parents when something does happen. And I was a little concerned about, I think Wendy did ask, so now we don't have to report if a child gets hurt. I think anytime a permit is issued, whether it be for Halloween, I certainly think that anybody getting hurt at any time a permit is issued should be reported. And thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, let's block 3 minutes and hopefully we can get to this.
Okay. Good afternoon, board members. Workshop on January 13th, 2025. I was not happy with how the meeting ended and decided I needed to get additional information. I placed a records request for all SPAs with AAL dating back to 2017. I received those records today and have spent hours reading through them. I have more questions about the SPA, but I'm unable to attend tonight's meeting. Here are some of my thoughts. I am coming to you as a 32-year resident and involved community member. I really do not care one way or the other if you continue to work with AAL. What I do care about and will be sure to follow up on if you do continue is that ITID enforces the agreements and requires any league or entity to provide all documents required. Yes, it's time consuming. Yes, it's annoying. But those are the requirements to be a service provider. If you can't get the required documents together in a timely manner, you will not be able to provide a service to this community. It's really that simple. But you are choosing to align with an organization. Therefore, you need to be sure the organization is a reputable and trustworthy one with only the well-being of our community at hand. I am still waiting on some additional documents from my record request. But so far, there are multiple areas that ITID dropped the ball with these agreements. I do realize this board was not in place for these agreements, except for one person. This one person seems to have vested interest in AAL. It definitely seems to be a conflict of interest. Her child plays on AAL, therefore she should recuse herself from any and all voting items that have AAL included. The end of the sports workshop there was mention of the mishandling of baseball funds. If any member of any board that is affiliated with the service provider agreement ITD is accused of theft or any other mishandling of funds, they should absolutely have to notify ITD. This should not matter what park it may have happened on. That would be grounds for immediate revocation of an SPA. If that is not currently part of the SPA, then that should be amended to include. If ITID is aware of the unpleasant environment that AAL has created in the community, then you absolutely need to take the lead on that as well. ITID has made well aware of issues back in 2021, I believe, and 2022, and they did nothing. Betty mentioned that we set them up for failure by not providing maintained fields, etc. But she also said it's not an ITID thing. It's an AAL thing. You can't have it both ways. You are responsible and you are the final stop when things at AAL are not being anything but a benefit to our community. ITID should know all the ins and outs of,
Okay.
That was from Miss Dawn Hollinsworth. There's a lot more.
Yeah, there's pages that they haven't read through, so we can
Put it on our
file this. Yeah. Okay. Is that it for public comment?
That's it.
Okay. Let's call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, see that this permit passes 5-0.
Did we have all the public comment?
We did.
Yeah.
10-2, approval of facility use permit for 143 Mind, Body and Spirit.
Can I make a motion I'll make the motion to approve 143 Mind, Body, and Spirits permit request to use Hamlin House for their Wellness Wednesday mediation sound healing class, subject to staff and legal review.
I'll second it, but I have a question. So,
Can we all join?
Huh?
I said, can we all join? I think we could all use it.
right? So one of the things that, I would like to think that this is not an intention, okay? But it feels like, certain organizations like the Acreage Athletic League and the ALA, because we went through this with the Halloween permit, are being held, I don't want to say to a higher standard, because of course they should be. There are nonprofit organizations, there are community organizations. I get that. But for insurance purposes, and we recently changed insurance. And I was looking through some of these permits, and there was something else. I can't now remember what it was. One of them where it had the insurance rate in there. It may even be the DR Horton. I'm sorry, I don't have my notes here.
Sorry.
But I noticed that it was only $1 million liability that was in, maybe it was the DR Horton agreement. In that agreement, it refers to $1 million liability, yet we just adopted a policy and we've been pushing it and requiring what I think is excessive amount of insurance on every level. So what did we require 143 Mind Spirit and do we require that from Seminole Ridge as well?
We do, we require it from everybody, and it is a part of the normal, like, amendments that we would add to the actual permit itself, the same attachments that Bob had to do, or Mr. Morgan had to do with the ALA event. They all basically do the same thing. I had to do this actually with Nomad with their pickleball event, because they were missing some information on that as well. Even with Wendy's, theirs expires this month, so we need an updated policy there. It's just one of the attachments we add to the permit. So that's why it's subject to staff review.
Increase the liability?
We did, it's 1 million, 2 million.
I'm sorry?
It's 1 million, 2 million for general liability.
Okay, because that's not.
And that's actually been the same amount, even with the adjusted additional items that are in there, like SAM coverage and things like that. 1 million, 2 million's always been there since I've been here.
Well, if you can look at that special permit, I'm pretty sure it was in the DR Horton documents, but I saw 1 million, 1 million.
But, I
So-
mean, that's the parks policy side for that insurance. I would assume it's the same on theirs, but I'm not sure.
I just think we need to be consistent and not overly burdensome.
Cool.
So that, I just had that question. The other thing, it just, we're not there yet, but on the Seminole Ridge, when we're charging them a fee, and that's the high school, and they didn't request to waive that for their.
It's a fee waiver in there.
Oh, I didn't see
It's
it.
at the top of, if you look at the backup or the executive summary on there,
Okay,
it's at the top of it.
so are we waiving the fee on the other permits like 10.2 and 10.4?
We are not.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Do we have any public comment?
Nope.
Okay. We have the motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Did you lump all three in together?
No,
No.
no.
No, 10.2
Just
is on its
the
own.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we're moving on to 10.3,
Seconded it,
approval of the
didn't you?
facility use permit for Seminole Ridge High
We should
School.
Just do them all together.
Well, that's
Unless
all right.
anybody has to, wants
That's
to pull
okay.
it. I
That's
thought
all
that was the whole
I'll
point
go
of
ahead and make
doing
the
this,
motion.
was to streamline it.
Well, this is in consent, but
I'll make
No,
them.
I know, but the parks, because this stuff used to be under consent and so.
I was just, so we actually did create this specifically, so if somebody at the beginning of it, if there were no questions, then you could move it forward. But if there were questions,
There
you didn't
were.
have to pull it at the beginning of the
right,
meeting
there
like you
was
do with
was
consent.
one, right,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
All right,
we're
so
here
I'll
now,
make-
let's
I'll
just
make a
do.
motion for 10.3 and 10.4
I'll second.
to approve it.
Any public comment?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor, 10.3 and 10.4?
Aye.
Betty and both pass 5-0.
Now we're at consent agenda.
Motion to approve items 11-1, 11-2, 11-3, 11-4, 11-5, and 11-6.
Second. I do have one comment I want to make though on the last. one.
On consent or on,
Yeah, I don't want to pull it. I just want to make a comment on 11.6. That is that monstrosity property on 140th that everybody's been asking. And I keep going and looking at it and it's residential and something is just not right there. And they're bringing water in. If somebody was trying to change a property to commercial use, there would be a whole application process and different
this is supposed to be
requirements.
for the son, for training, from what my understanding is.
Okay, but it just, the whole thing is just really bizarre. And I just hope, because where it does impact us is that, and we really, I talked to Jay about this earlier, we had that workshop where we talked about our water control plans. We really need to expedite doing something with that, and I want to talk with Mary a little bit more, some thoughts that I have, but if this were a commercial property, we'd be looking at all of these things, and also sewage would be required. They're bringing water in, but not sewage. And I don't even know where you're gonna have a septic pad on that property, or even any kind of equal compensating storage. It doesn't look like it meets the setback requirements. I don't know if a variation was obtained for it, but it's really problematic to me, and I think it's setting a precedent. And the concern is that if there ends up being a change in use, they bypassed all the other things. And so I do want, and I don't expect you to answer this right now, but if there was a change in use in the future, then what? So if you guys could take a look at that, because again, if this were being a commercial application right now, we would be talking about something differently.
So do you feel like we need to table 11-6?
No, because it's a water line and it's residential. I don't think we have a basis for denying
Right.
it right now.
Right.
But I do think we need to have a discussion about, what we had with respect to the water control plans and how we can assert a little bit more with respect to what is in our water control plans. Because we were never supposed to build on more than 25% of our lots.
Right.
There was a reason for that. It's drainage. And, we don't have enough drainage. And if everybody were doing what this property is doing, we got a major problem. So, anyway, I just want legal to be looking at that, like what can Indian Trail do if the use is not residential?
Looks like it meets the setback, 25.
It looks like that, but when when you
Oh
see
my
it in
God, I
person,
saw it.
there's no
Yeah.
way that's 25 feet.
Crazy.
It just doesn't even look like it's 15 feet. Yeah, and that's the other thing is where were they measuring to the outside of the easement? Cause
Because the arrow stops, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay.
it starts
but
where that arrow is.
Right,
Yeah.
it starts at the tip of the arrow, which is inside. Right?
So very interesting what they're doing, but I have concerns that there's something else. Anyways. You said that,
Septic line, yeah. Let's see.
No, do they own the property next to it?
no, that's it. I just
Okay,
wanted to,
all right,
because
so
I
we're
want
agreed
legal
on-
to look into that. I
Okay.
don't want to forget about that.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
See that it passes 5-0. Staff presentations.
Yep. You ready? Thank you. So just quickly, earlier we had two property owners come to speak about the current R3 project. So what we're asking the board, or what you directed us to do, is basically try to work with those landowners who might only have 2 inches or whatever, 6 inches, and see, is it going to impact the construction? Could it impact future maintenance or drainage issues? And Mr. Floyd and Mr. Robinson and I will work on that, look at those things, and then work with legal to come up with a agreement for that landowner that would be similar to other ones that we did. That's very specific based on right of way with, with the
If there's ever a
understanding that it
problem,
can
you
be,
have to move it.
it's revocable
Right.
if we need it to be moved at their expense, things of that nature. But if it's something that, whether it be engineer, myself, or Mr. Robinson, or anyone from legal, we will be bringing it back February. And we appreciate you giving us this, ability to do that. So
Absolutely.
we don't delay the construction project, because many of these homeowners have been waiting 10 years longer for these roads to be done.
Absolutely.
So we'll try to work with them. Mr. Robinson went out there and has been meeting with them along with some other staff. And we tried to call them today to say, hey, we're going to be asking the board to give us this, authority to see. Yeah, and
If I may, Mr. Hanson made right up front, he said the R3. This is not a general to be applied to anything other than the specific R3. It's very limited. It doesn't give us authority to change any of your existing permitting or other obstruction policies. It is strictly for the R3, and we've got 2 projects remaining. One is these 3 roads. I'm calling that a project. And then the last is 180th and Tangerine out west. So it's not changing your policy. It gives us the specific authorization to work out for only the R3 that are being constructed from here to the end.
I have 2 things. The first thing is, obviously, if we're in a situation, because we had a big deal about the trees and the roots, and them being impacted. Obviously, if you run into that situation where somebody is encroaching just a little bit, but it's a huge tree, and by any modifications, it's going to impact that. That's not something that we're going to waive, because it's going to cost us more in the long run, right? So, but what I heard was fence posts slightly, off like 2 inches, and it may be a surveying issue. We know that we've got these crazy surveys throughout the district, and they're not consistent. You could have 3 surveyors give you 3 different things. So I hope that we're looking at that, and we're very judicious about that, because we don't want to set up any kind of precedent, even though we're saying this is for the R3 only. So there's that. You brought up 180th. I'm being attacked ferociously by a resident that lives off of or on 180th. I don't know. Just moved here a few years ago, but he's now trying to sell his house. And I've talked with both Rob and Jason about 180th and that section that is still milled. And, we haven't really spent a lot of money on that, because we're planning on doing the paving very soon. But I'm hoping that you can give us and the residents an update on what that timeline looks like. And if it's not going to be within, a very reasonable time, which I expect, unless it's within the next couple of months, that's not reasonable. So we need to really look at doing some temporary fixes where those huge potholes are on 180th and the millings, because it's bad enough that I think no matter how fast you're going, it's going to throw your alignment out, because it's almost like the size of a tire in there from the pictures that I saw. So.
Excuse me, through the chair. So,
It's a working.
one of the things that discussed with Mr. Floyd and CapTech about, we're still many months down there, and there's some issues that need to be worked out with alignment. So speaking with Mr. Lester, we're gonna go ahead and do a slight mill and overlay to the existing surface, just to fix those issues. We know they're, the residents been complaining about that whole section for a long time. We're gonna take care of from 89th south to Tangerine, which is the worst section of it. We're gonna remill it, we're gonna put just a skim coat on that and lay it back down. We're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it, because ultimately, depending on what surface we go with, it'll probably get mixed in there if we do an FDR, but engineering will come back with the response on that. But we do understand it's gonna be probably the better part of 3/4 of a year before we
Right.
get there.
And I expect that we're doing it in the off, like when school's out, right? The
We're
target
gonna
is
be
this
very
summer.
judicious about the time frame of it. We're trying to get this done as soon as possible, probably over spring break, so we don't affect traffic. If we do, we'll have lane closures set up appropriately for the ambulance.
I'm referring to the R3 project, though.
Oh,
like-
the R3,
yeah.
yes, it's, like I said, we're having to work out some alignment issues at the southern portion of it,
Okay.
so
So it may be that it's not done this summer, or,
probably not.
all right. Are we within that 5 years still of when we started the R3 and the water control plan? In terms of once we adopted it, we started implementing it, what time frame are we in?
I believe we're probably in year 3, maybe starting year
Seems
4.
longer, Okay.
Well, yeah, but it's when you actually execute the bond, from my perspective, when you execute the bond, and so.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
It-
just off my top of my head, I can't.
yeah, because the
I just-
actual
yeah.
R3, I'd have to go back and look at when the R3 itself, I'm thinking of the bond, when we went out for the bond for that. Because we're well within the range that they expected us to meet completion.
All right, I just, those, everybody, especially 140th, the whole reason why we did the R3, you guys all know this. The whole reason why we started with R3 was because of 140th and 180th, and they're the two that have gotten done last. So, people think that I've been lying to them all these years, and it's like, yeah, it's coming, and, here we are, it's 8 years later, and we still don't have it done, so, anyway. Well, yeah, but we've been talking about it for 8 years, yeah. So it took 2 years just to get to a point where we're doing the water control plan. Then went 5 years going through that whole process, but anyway. Who's counting?
The residents.
The residents.
Yeah.
Say the residents,
Right.
right?
Counting every
So
day. That's why I'm asking for some relief here, because these people have been very patient. And as long as we're not wasting money, because that's another thing we get accused of, this isn't wasting money. This is no different than if somebody has a pothole on their dirt road. Then you go and you put material in the pothole, right? This is a milled road that is really in decrepit condition, and it's causing damage to people's vehicles no matter what they do. So, and just one last point, speaking about roads, I've noticed in several places throughout the district, on the edge of pavement, we don't have curbing. And for some reason, in certain places, we have this huge drop off that's happening. And
Everybody,
right-
everybody cuts the corner.
it's the-
That's
well,
what
no,
happens.
I'm talking about on the straight road section of the road. So I don't know if people are running off the road and then it's creating a rut.
Could be the mail person.
That's not what it looks like to me, no. But, so anyway, if you notice that, can you take a look at it? And if I can come up with specific locations, like, I'm driving along and I see it and then I take note to bring it up, but I can't remember exactly where I saw it recently it was a huge drop off. So, just something that if we could have more of a gradual whatever, because if somebody runs off the road and then they try to get back on, I mean, that'll really tear up their tire. But if it's being caused because people are running off of the road, and we just might need to look at why is that happening? Is there something that we can do to prevent that? Like, anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
We can address the situation.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to say I was happy to see that R&D left that flyer to let the residents know that, what was going on with the road. So that's great. Notification of the residents is very important. So
Oh.
it's nice to see that.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I've been seeing posts again, and people have contacted me that their road is getting milled and they were not notified. and they had no clue that it was happening. Now, we're still, we adopted a process. There's a sign on their street. They're supposed to have something in their mailbox. So there's no way, and when are we doing that? Like 3 months before we do the project? Because they're
Well, I
supposed to
think
have that opportunity.
Well, I believe.
What is it?
45 days
Yeah,
to
but
notify.
Ms. Cantley, because I know we mail things out, so you want to go through that, because I can't remember it right now, I apologize.
The last mailing that we did was for the milling roads in Zone 5. And we mailed them out, I want to say the first week in January. And we also did hangers. So that way, even if it's, renter or something, and we send out things to landowners, but then we do the hangers. And then the signs are put up as well. Jason's crew puts up the signs. We try to coordinate that all at the same. Matter of fact, on the mail out, it has those 3 things up on the top right and the dates that we did that.
So, and the signs that you're putting up, they're like the yard signs at the beginning and end of the street, or what kind of signs are we using?
I've never seen them.
They're large. You would not miss.
Like a
that.
yard.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
large, because aren't they
They're
almost like
bigger.
the construction?
So,
Bigger.
just- so right now, we just did zone 5, right? So just bear with me for a sec. If I'm in zone 5, I think. So that's south of the high school, right? So if I have not received any of that, I know that I'm safe. My road is not being milled, correct? Is that where we're at right now? Okay.
Yeah, we send them directly to the property owners, and I don't.
And
even
we
think-
hang them too
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
physical properties.
Okay.
'Cause
that
we're
are
still
there.
On the east, we're finishing
Yeah.
up over
Bridge
here.
it up in one right now. from the
Yeah.
sheriff's office.
And we give,
Yeah, and so that's why they got it the first week or whatever, as Ms. Canley said in January. So that's where we'll be doing that.
So.
Right, and we
so-
give them the
We're talking like
45
within months, right?
Yeah.
and
So
we
I
give
don't-
them the 45 days. Per policy, if they want to, if they don't want it, then they let us know that they don't want it. And then we send out another letter to that particular road section that said that someone, and we don't say who said they didn't want it. We just say we received, that Millings isn't wanted, and then they have to send us back that signed letter agreeing that they don't want it either. And if we
They
get enough
can
of the.
send it back.
Well, yes, they can mail it or they can, but we need the original signature. Email's not accepted. Or they could drop it off. And if we get enough of those letters back of the 50 that equal the 50 plus 1, then it's, enough to where the road's not gonna be milled. If enough
So-
of that road.
So if I'm a landowner and I got this notification, do I have to send that letter, or can I get a petition with people signing it?
No,
It
we
has to
took
be-
out the,
No.
We
That's
got rid
the-
of all that.
Okay.
We do it because it was creating friction.
Right, I
between
remember,
neighbors.
I
Yeah.
remember,
Right.
okay. But
right,
I just
but we
want to
do send
correct,
letters, we do send letters out to everyone on that road, giving them the opportunity to return that letter
right,
to us that they do not want their.
but
road
they do
milled.
not have to physically come down to the office
No,
to
they
do
can
that,
mail
because there's
as long as we
misinformation
have
about
They
that
can mail
too.
it, but
Okay.
we need the original.
Yeah,
All right.
because we were having people were alleging,
Yeah,
oh,
I
well, I
know.
didn't send email
Or the
that."
bullying
Yeah.
that was going
Yeah.
on, yeah,
Right.
okay. Right.
All right, and then just a last thing, I know, we've been using these yellow cards, but Mr. Nelson, he's looking at, we're gonna be replacing the mics and speakers and trying to put in a light system so you can hit a button and say, I want to speak, and hopefully that will,
It's easier, it's
alleviate
better than
some
the
of through
cards.
the
Yeah,
chair
yeah,
and
right,
trying to reach
right.
over and do all that. It just is, some of the systems are more expensive, so we're trying to be as frugal as possible on this. So, and, did you want to just quickly address Mr. Dune's issue from earlier? Leo's,
Oh, with
Yeah,
that,
yeah. just so you have it and we'll reach out.
yeah,
to
the
him.
south side of that, A Canal, we're doing improvements over there for, the boat ramps for ABC. And then as part of the, the canal reclamation, A is one of our worst for, overhangs and vegetation. So we're actually prepping a landing over there to get ready to eventually get that cleared out as well. So there's gonna be boat ramps on either side, depending on which side we can access faster.
Wasn't there always a boat ramp there?
Yes,
Okay, so this is just an
We're-
improved one.
yes, because sometimes they get stuck, it gets washed out. So then they really have a hard time getting out of the canal with the trailers.
And we're gonna put a gate there so that the
Yes.
public can't just be going and, okay.
Yeah, we had the
Water
old style
style
gate. We're
orders
gonna
now.
put in another system in there to prohibit the public from
We
going
have-
down into it.
No,
Once everything's done, those will be reinstalled, or actually a better one.
That's all we have on the administration, so I believe that Ms. Five told me about something.
Yep.
I don't know.
For under reports, the attorney's report, our attorney's report has been submitted in your background. We would also additionally request an attorney-client session regarding the matters relating to Minto Seminole litigation. So we just wanted to make that announcement and that request.
Thank you. And we'll work on dates. Yep, thank you.
I'll make a motion to receive and file
Did we-
items 14.1.
Did we skip supervisor business?
We did, so.
Excuse me.
Oh, so it's jumped to the report. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Made the motion.
Yeah, and then we'll go back.
I'll second it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that it passes 5-0. Supervisor business, obviously.
I
Patty, you've got
apologize.
Something.
Just very quick.
Okay.
When reviewing the minutes that we approved in consent agenda, one of the items was in there, and that's why I like the minutes coming out, so I can refresh my memory. We were asking for, under the PBSO updates, traffic count on the district roads, which staff could do, Mr. And Supervisor Argue also suggested having Cap Tech do a high crash location evaluation. Where are we at on that? Just,
That was from July.
yeah, June,
June.
yeah.
So I know we've done some traffic counts, so we'll get those. But as far as the high crash data, that would be.
I'll have to communicate with Pat.
it-
I
it-
have not done that.
What is the cost on that usually? Or something like that,
I can get that for you. I don't know.
please. That's all.
I think at that time, what I had in mind was updating the
One that you
the
had.
study that we
Yeah.
had previously done on because we had evaluated a number of different high crash locations. And I think there was like 12 on that initial list and 10 were warranted for four-way stops. So I was just looking for.
That would actually go back on to
Right.
what we were discussing
Right.
earlier, so having that in our minutes, maybe we can follow back up on that, please. Otherwise, that's all I have.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Michael? He says, I want to go home and have cake, man. Happy birthday.
Happy
All right,
birthday, Mike.
this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.